Welcome. It's been a week. We're back here. I'm your host, Jeremy. To my right, Delaney, the young degenerate lesbian, hopefully getting a little bit less degenerate by the day. How's it going, Delaney?
So far, so good. Had a pretty good weekend. Got to work on my car, hang out with friends, all that good stuff.
Awesome. I see Paul in the chat, MA in chat, Dari. What's going on, guys? Welcome. Get a drink. Get comfortable. Let's get ready. We got a bunch of interesting topics for you guys tonight. We're going to be talking about the COVID propaganda. Probably already going to get taken off of YouTube just for saying that right there, but it's fine. I don't care anymore. We're going to be talking about the automotive shortages. This is something that I learned about kind of abruptly last week from my mechanic, and we talked a lot about automotives last week on the stream, and everybody seemed to be really interested in that topic.
Yep.
So I figured we'd bring it back and talk a little bit more about that. What's up, Stalking Horse, man? Welcome. And we're going to be talking about... We're going to give you a couple examples of two people who dared to say the truth about, well, COVID, and then one guy who went hardcore on some transgender messaging that I think everybody here will get a kick out of. You guys may know what I'm already talking about, the Star Wars shop owner in Washington. You're going to want to see that. You're going to get a laugh for sure. That'll make your whole night worth it. And a couple COVID stories. Not too heavy on the COVID stuff today, but I do want to give you an example of what's happening in France. We're going to get an update on the vaccination status from Biden himself. He's got an count for the number of Americans that are vaccinated. So we're going to see what the official numbers are according to Biden.
Okay.
And the laughing should indicate that obviously this is a Biden gaffe that we're going to be sharing with you, so that'll be funny as well. A lot of funny stories today.
Hopefully we won't get hopefully we won't be called white supremacists for talking about Biden.
Yeah, no, it's highly probable. I'm ready. The kids are suffering. We all know that. We're going to be going to Clark County and to a district in Oregon to look at what's happening to the grading programs there, how they're going to be changing schools year and the grading districts and the grading rubrics for the upcoming school years. And you are going to be shocked to see how terrible these schools are becoming for these kids. And at the end of the stream, we're going to be going over an article about, for our science bite of the day, we got an article from futurism.com about the Great North American Freeze. Yes, that's right. We could be actually freezing. I know everyone's been telling you that we're going to be dying and burning up in a ball of fire for global warming, but scientists are now warning about the fact that the Gulf streams are collapsing, which would lead to a Great North American Freeze. So we're going to be going over that, evaluating whether or not we need to prepare for hot or cold. I still don't know. How do I need to pack for the end of the world? We'll find out tonight. And, of course, as the title indicates, we're going to be ending the stream on an interesting video reaction to a Vox, I guess I would call it propaganda video about whether or not you should have kids. So we got a lot of stuff to get covered, guys. So let's do it. Let's jump right into it. Get started with the show. All right.
Did you? Hell yeah.
Back on.
Love that intro video, Jeremy. Always a good one.
The audio screwed up a little bit at the beginning, but
oh god. California Fire Watch. The Dixie and River fires
Where is it?
The two big ones we're tracking first. The Dixie fire, which is
silence. I was just telling Delaney before the stream started. These local news channels are absolutely god awful. They just autoplay videos out of nowhere. This tab has been open for half an hour. And then all of a sudden, hey, this is ABC 10 California. Let me tell you about this fire at max volume. Jeez, come on. Well, it was a good segue anyway, I guess, into our first story of the night because I did want to talk about that. Let's go to ABC 10 to see a quick update on the Dixie Fire, which we've been talking about every week here. This fire is now at 490,000 acres over in California there. Now, we've been covering it since it was roughly, I think, 100,000 acres. There's been a lot of fires burning out there, but this one, it seemed like it was going to be the one, so I kind of honed in on this one. It's still only 25% contained, and let me restate that number for you guys. 490,000 acres and 900 buildings destroyed so far. So that's what's happening over in California right now. And for the record, this is now the second largest in the entire state's history. The August complex fire from 2020 was about 1 million acres. So we're halfway to the record, and I think we can make it. If it's 25% contained, obviously the state is out of water at a record levels of drought. So I think we could hit it.
I think we can too. I mean, it is a bit smoky here in California, but I think we'll survive. Like, I have a friend who's an asthmatic, and I've been asking her, like, how's your asthma doing? She says not that bad. So I think we'll survive, unfortunately.
Yeah, so that's just a quick update on that for you guys, because we do want you to be aware of that. The country is actually burning right now, literally and figuratively. Paul says in the chat that the intro was at halftime. Was it at halftime? That's kind of funny. Hopefully it wasn't too painful to listen to. I don't know why it would be at halftime. I will troubleshoot that after the show.
Yep.
Welcome, Moneypenny. I see you in chat there.
Hi,
and
Moneypenny.
Lizzie. Hey, Lizzie. My favorite content at 9 months pregnant is stories about whether or not I should have kids. Yes. All right. You're gonna love this. You're gonna love this stream then.
Yeah.
Before we go forward,
we talk a lot about that.
Yeah, we do, and I think it's it's something that needs to be talked about. Before we go to the stereo chats that just came in, I do want to mention shout out to Paul, who recommended this energy drink called Ghost to me, sour warheads flavor. Holy smokes! I don't drink energy drinks, but Paul, thank you for the recommendation because this thing is absolutely delicious. Can't get enough.
And Jeremy's going to send me a can or two because we don't have that over here.
Yes. So brought to you by Ghost Energy Drinks with patented neurofactor and Astra-Gin. Don't know what any of that does, but
it's tasty.
Base the performance of my stream today off of you can judge the efficacy of the energy drink. So
hell yeah.
With that being said, yes, sir, I'm drinking it. What's up, kids? Welcome to chat. All right, let's jump into the next story of the day. What do we got here? We got Biden's giving us an update on vaccination status here. So you guys, we've been hearing a lot about vaccinations and Delta variants and whatnot, and we got to know where we're at as a country. How much work do we have left to do to get everybody vaccinated so we can get back to normal? Biden is going to give us an update on the status of vaccinations. Let's jump to that right now. Hear it from Biden himself.
So we have to get more people vaccinated.
Oh man, he's wearing a tan suit. That's not good.
Well over, what's the number again? I remind myself, 350 million Americans have already been vaccinated. They're doing fine.
What's the number again? Let me look at my notes here. 350 million Americans. According to Joe Biden, the president and the leader of the most powerful country in the world, the country that only has 328 million people, 350 million people are vaccinated. So I don't know.
Oh.
He must be including all the illegals, I guess. That's the only way I can think. Where the extra 22 million comes from, I do not know. But I think we're there, guys. We're done. We're all vaccinated. Some of us are vaccinated more than once, apparently, according to Biden. Let's see. Lucozade. I don't know what that is, kids. Maybe I'll check it out. And we need a dementia patient telling us what we need to do. Yes. No, of course. Yeah. All right. So that's where we're at with COVID. Vaccinations. Let's go to France, see where they're at, because they're doing not so hot. And when I say not so hot, I mean, if you're paying attention to the news, you know they're rioting over there right now. And once you see this video, you might understand why they're rioting. So let's go now to Paul ADW on Twitter, who posted this video. Paul posted a video of people dining outdoors under umbrellas, you know, just having a lunch or a baguette or whatever they do.
Having a coffee.
Yep, having a coffee, and police patrolling, walking around, asking you, or presumably demanding, that you show your vaccination status to them as you're sitting enjoying your coffee at the table. And this is exactly what everybody said would not happen. Now, it's not America, but there were a lot of people in America saying this is going to get to a stage where cops are asking you for your papers. Papers, please.
Show me your papers.
Yeah, and as you can see, the somebody made a reference to the Nazis right below that with a black and white picture of the Nazis saying, show me your papers, because that's where this came from. The Nazis were looking for papers, and the people who claim that they would have fought back against the Nazis if they were alive during that time period are now willfully, gleefully providing their vaccination status to the police. Yeah, here, please, let me have my coffee, or whatever the French accent is. But the irony is so great, because they're doing it with a smile on their face. Remember, guys, these are the same people who would die at the chance to go back in a time machine and assassinate Hitler, as you know, as they were being indoctrinated into a Nazi-dominated Germany. And no, they would not. They don't realize that. I think it was Jordan Peterson who said this originally, or not originally, but you know, one of the most prominent people recently say this. If you were alive in Germany, you would have not stopped Hitler. Nobody would have. I wouldn't have. You wouldn't have. Nobody would have, because this is the normal. This is the normal thing. This is the societally accepted thing to do. Once you make the tyranny, the authoritarianism, you know, the normal accepted part of society, you don't fight back against the normalcy. You know, otherwise, then you're the terrorist, you're the extremist, which is exactly what we're seeing now with the, you know, the 9/11 playbook being played out against white conservative America.
It's I don't know. I just think about the history that France went through during the Nazi occupation, and it's just sad to see them kind of revert back to this kind of mindset of, I will comply. I don't, you know, even if it's unjust or they have no reason to come in here, they're just going to bend over and let it happen again. It's really kind of disorienting to see.
It's not even letting it happen. They wanted this. The chick who's the first chick they show in the video, as she's sitting down, when the cop comes up to him, she smiles. She's like, "Oh, yeah, here, look. I'm so glad that you're here to protect me from the unvaccinated. Look." She wants it. They want this, and that's the genius of their entire strategy, is that they make these people want it, because you know, they're so susceptible to fear, to emotion, that it only takes a year of straight up, you know, news media and social media propaganda to really get you to a state to where you're like, yeah, please ask me for my papers.
Yeah, let me show you that I'm vaccinated, and show you that I comply and I'm good. I listen. I'm a good girl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Like Lizzie says in the chat, give me a bedtime daddy government. The question is, though, do you think if they start doing this in America, will people actually protest?
I think a certain number of people will protest, but I think there is a bigger number of people that would be afraid to go out and protest and actually stand up for themselves and be labeled as a white supremacist or a anti-vaxxer or anti-science person. Mm-hmm. People in America are kind of in the same boat as these people that just show their vaccination status to the police. They're either afraid that they're going to be persecuted by their own, or they're afraid that they're going to be lumped in with Republicans or, white nationalists, or they just don't care. They just don't care enough to actually step up and say something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with you, actually. It seems like everyone's kind of resorted to talking big on the internet and not showing up in real life at all. So that's why I asked the
Yeah.
question, because the question goes through my mind. If this happens in America, I don't think people are going to protest at the level that we need them to
Yeah.
to actually do anything about it. Let's see what
Yeah.
Stereo Chat says. Go over to Stereo here. We got Paul and Moneypenny over in Stereo. I'm going to skip Paul's first one just because we're a little beyond that. Sorry, Paul.
Going to be that dead horse being beaten into just oblivion and dust. Yeah, it's another failure of California government. They're going to say it's a failure. Oh, it's global warming. It's this, it's that, whatever. Capitalism has failed. No, capitalism were the tree cutters, the loggers. And when they logged, they did, as a courtesy, cleared out all the underbrush. There are people who existed before the internet, and they remember this.
What?
Gen Xers, boomers, etc. Yeah, it's just another failure of neoliberal leftism. That's all it is, QED.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I think that's accurate, referring to the fires in California there. Let's go to our UK correspondent.
You would be better having a baguette shoved up your backside than being vaccinated, in my humble opinion. Ah.
That's our French correspondent, actually, not our UK correspondent there, apparently.
Our French identified correspondent.
She identifies as French today, yeah.
Yeah, just today, just for this stream.
Let's see here. Just identify as trans or trans-vaxxite, Jeremy and Delaney. It says Kizza. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
that might work.
I've been saying since the vaccine came out that I identify as vaccinated. So don't tread on me, bigot.
Dari says if it gets to the point that point, we are done as a country. I'm sure. You're referring to the papers, please. I think. Yeah, I would ask for his or her papers. Just ask for their papers back. Well, here's a question:
Yeah,
if they defund the police, who's going to ask for the papers?
Right. Yeah, that's another thing. That's a way we'll get around it, because they want to defund the police so bad. How are we going to actually enforce the showing the papers if there's no police out there enforcing show me your papers?
The social workers. Send a social worker over. Yeah, come and ask for my
that's
papers.
true, yeah.
A social worker.
Yeah, and I tell them to F off. What are you going to do?
All right. Let's see. Osis is he swallowed the black pill. He says we're already done. And I'm inclined to agree with you.
Yeah, I was going to say we're on that downward spiral, Osis. I agree. Yeah, we really are. We're witnessing the fall of this great country as all together. So yay! At least we're in it together.
I think we really just need to redefine what it is that the goal is, because I think a lot of people get too carried away in the scope of defining success, because people define success as we need to save the entire country and all 350 million people, according to Biden, in the country, and change everybody's mind and fix every single institution. I think that's a little that's not a good strategy to start with a scope that large for success. Just refine your goal a little bit more. Make it smaller, make it achievable, and then work your way up, because that's not achievable. So, of course, if that's what your goal is for saving the country, you're never going to get there. It's never going to work. And, you're going to get black-pilled. You're going to get down. You're going to get depressed. You're going to want to give up.
That's when you just start your own compound and have, families and friends on your compound guarding it, have guard towers, just like in the olden days.
Yes. It's a good idea, Delaney. Where'd you get that idea from?
From you. And from watching a lot about Scottish and English history, and how they all kind of like looked after each other. Well, not all of them together, but like the clans and stuff, which is the clans would
bring
all
clans
look out for
back. That's what we need to do.
Yeah, bring back clans. Not with a K, but with a C.
Oh Jesus, yeah, that was a close one. Whew. Yes, C, definitely a C on that one.
Yeah.
Okay, let's. Have you guys been noticing? I don't know, Delaney. Have you noticed this? There's a vast number of new articles coming out where they show like fat people in hospital beds, and they're like, I made a mistake of not taking the vaccine, and now that I've almost died, I gotta say, you better take the vaccine. Have you seen these? They're all over the place right now.
I haven't seen any of those.
Oh, well, you're not as online as I am, so it's probably a good thing. But anyway,
Yeah.
CNN, everyone's got these articles now where they're trying to pump the same strategy they were last year, where it's the vaccine regret. Like, oh, look at this guy. He said he was a vaccine denier, and now he's dead because he's evil and you're supposed to take the vaccine. The propaganda is really pumping through the roof. And I just wanted to point that out and see if anybody else noticed that as well. We're literally going through a cycle now. Since it's been 2 years, almost 2 years, they're just reusing the same strategies from last year over and over and over again, despite the fact that they never even worked. Case in point, what just happened that happened last year and that there was no actual outcomes from? Around this time, it involves motorcycles.
What was that?
It involves motorcycles. Sturgis. Remember Sturgis?
Yeah, that's right. Sturgis, yeah.
Last year, they were crying about Sturgis. This year, again, what are they doing? Crying about Sturgis. Oh my God, super spreader event. Fauci went on, TV and was like, oh, I get that you like your freedoms, but I think it's time to give the freedoms up for safety, or whatever he said. Basically, the exact opposite of that Thomas Jefferson quote. I just want to point out that we didn't really care at all when Lollapalooza was happening. I did search.
Right, yeah.
I did search online. I'd found a couple articles of some outlets that did complain about Lollapalooza. Some articles that said, is this really a good idea? But there was no CNN, MSNBC, mainstream news media TV coverage of taking dumps all over Lollapalooza, despite the fact that there was thousands and thousands of people jammed together like tuna in a can, close together, not in the open air on motorcycles moving around, with largely social distanced. We're talking about smashed together, no talking about that. So the same exact strategies that we saw last year, where it's all politicized. The Black Lives Matter rallies, those are cool, but everything else that is not cool. And they're already getting us into a pattern. I think people need to be aware of that they're already in a pattern, because I think they're comfortable. They're comfortable with where we are mentally as a country. And they know that they can just kind of herd us around between narratives and stories, despite the fact that we've already seen these. We already learned last year there was no outbreak from Sturgis. So, again, they're talking about Sturgis, relying on the fact that you don't know what happened last year with Sturgis. So, it's, the propaganda machine's in full swing right now.
Yeah, Dark Draconis in the YouTube chat says media can make money off of concert events. They can on Sturgis. That's why they are not saying anything about Lollapalooza, but they're going to talk crap about Sturgis because it doesn't feed their machine to talk about Lollapalooza, even though Lollapalooza is probably way more dangerous as far as spreading COVID and giving people COVID than Sturgis probably is.
Yeah, and let me pull up a picture of Lollapalooza, because you don't you need to see this visually to really understand. So here's a picture of Lollapalooza. This is what the crowds look like. And this is nowhere near what... This is nowhere near what happens at Sturgis. There's not a giant sea of people shoulder to shoulder, literally breathing indirectly in each other's faces. Okay, that's not what Sturgis is. So you would expect, if we were treating this thing as a real pandemic, and if there was real danger to people, that they would say something about this. But you got to also consider the fact that this was in Chicago. We can't talk trash about Chicago. There's one thing that we've learned, the one thing that I've learned, especially from covering, political, cultural events for the last 4 years or whatever in a public sense, is you can't ever talk about Chicago at all, ever. Despite the fact that it's a great example of how to do everything wrong, you can't talk about it. So maybe they're just following that unwritten rule. Okay, so don't forget about the southern border with all the positive Khufu illegal aliens. Thank you, Miklo El Chicano, for that reminder. That is correct. Yeah, it's another thing that they don't want to mention, the fact that we're not testing any of these people coming in from the border. And we're literally distributing people across the country in buses. and they're not getting COVID tested or anything.
Yep. Come on in. We'll take you.
Okay, so let's get the. I got one more COVID story here. This is a good one. We hear a lot about in the propaganda, in the news media coverage. One of the things that they use to leverage your decision-making process for getting the vaccine is something called long COVID. Long COVID is the kind of ethereal, undefinable ghost that follows a COVID infection that nobody can define, pin down, really figure out what's going on with it. It's just really strangely nebulous, it just kind of exists, but nobody knows how or why. And I found that very strange. I don't know how it's so difficult to pin down where long COVID comes from, why the range of symptoms is so great. And we've looked at some data before. Okay, we've looked at some studies that looked at, I think, 200,000 people. I forgot what the source was, but it was like a 250,000 sample size study that looked at COVID positive people who claim to have long COVID. And the narrative doesn't really look good. Okay, so I think the stats were that 33% or 30-something percent of the people said they had long COVID, but when you actually broke the numbers down, 28% of that 33% was things like depression, mood disorders, insomnia. Like, you can't sleep, you feel sad, and that's normal day-to-day stuff. Sorry, but that doesn't sound to me like serious lasting effects. That sounds like you're in lockdown and your country's burning down to the ground. That's what that sounds like. So I found some more interesting data on long-haul COVID that suggests that it may not even really exist to the extent that we all think it does. So let's take a look at that now. And I am getting repeated alerts from OBS that I'm getting dropped frames, but you know how we do it here. We just plow through, don't care. You got to cut me off all the way, Susan, if you want me to stop. Okay. From statnews.com. We need to start thinking more critically and speaking more cautiously about long COVID. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on this article. I do want to quickly highlight a paragraph down here because they talk about, how scary the media makes it, what kind of symptoms we're talking about, severe psychosis, visions of committing murder, difficulty focusing, dizziness, grasping for everyday words, memory loss, things like that, okay? So, yeah, we get it. They pumped this thing up in the media to make it sound really scary, really bad. But the article points out that reporting on long COVID needs to be more cautious for several reasons. First, consider that at least some people who identify themselves as having long COVID appear never to have been infected with SARS-CoV-2 virus in the first place. In Young's influential article, one of the articles he cites previously, where they talk about long COVID, the author cites a survey of COVID long haulers in which some 2/3 of them had negative coronavirus antibody tests, blood tests that are supposed to reveal prior SARS-CoV-2 infection. Meanwhile, a survey organized by a group of self-identified long COVID patients that recruited participants from online support groups reported in late December 2020 that around 2/3 of those had undergone blood testing. Reported negative results. So 2/3 in both of the sample populations that we're talking about never even had positive results.
Ooh.
But they were self-reported having COVID and self-reported having quote-unquote long haul. Now, I did talk to my doctor actually about the antibody test, and she said exactly what they're about to say here in the article, which is that the blood tests are highly sensitive and specific, but they are imperfect and can yield false positives and false negatives. So it means, like, it can come back as negative when you actually have them, and it can come back as positive when you don't have it. And there's some evidence that antibodies can wane over time. So I get what your people are saying now. Like, oh, Jeremy, you don't keep antibodies forever. I mean, you can test for antibodies 6 months after, and they don't have the antibodies anymore. Well, only to an extent, okay? Because study after study has found that antibodies remain positive in the majority of people with confirmed infections for many months. So it's highly probable that some or many long haulers who were never diagnosed using PCR testing in the acute phase and who also have negative antibody tests are, quote, true negatives. So, basically what this article kind of outlines is that the data that everyone uses for long haul isn't really there. Two-thirds of these sample sizes, two-thirds of the samples groups that they're using for these articles and these studies that you see cited everywhere for long COVID never even tested positive for COVID. That seems like a big kind of hole in the narrative to me.
Yeah, that's a pretty big gaping hole. But you said how big was the sample size? Like 250 people?
Well, no, I'm talking in the study that we covered a few weeks back, where they said 33% of cases come out with long haul. That was I think that was like 250,000 sample size.
Oh, okay. Holy crap.
250,000.
Yeah, this is it's all just so confusing. It really is.
Yeah, that's I think that's part of the problem. Now, I have a theory that I'm working with that just kind of came to me today. And I'm gonna put it out there into the universe, into the internet, and see what you guys think about it. The long haul stuff. I think a lot of this long haul stuff, if you look at the symptoms, look at how it's classified. Look, it's what? Anxiety, depression, brain fog, fatigue, erratic heartbeat, memory loss, stuff like that. There's definitely some of this that is attributed to COVID. Okay, so let's just get that out of the way. So nobody's throwing around the word science denier or anything like that. Some of this is attributed to COVID, but I think, and here's my theory, a lot of this is actually the result of very soft, very weak people, physically and mentally weak people, experiencing a hardship, a real, true hardship for the first time. So think about, a 16, 17, 18, whatever, even a mid-20s-year-old person who was born, they've never had a challenge in their entire life. They've had the internet the whole time. They eat processed foods. They're very weak. They never go to the gym. They're mentally weak. They're physically weak. They're just like basically one step away from being in a pod in the Matrix, right? And then they have COVID. They get COVID, or they think they get COVID, or at least they consume the media surrounding COVID to the point to where they get mentally ill just from the consumption of the media. Okay, now imagine that they actually get COVID. This dangerous, crazy, life-ending, civilization-destroying thing that they've been hearing about in the news for months and months and months, that they've been having anxiety attacks over, they actually got it. What do you think that does to their brain? That has got to cause some trauma. Just the fact that they get it, not even questioning the actual effects of it, just the psychosomatic effects of getting this thing that they hear about on the news constantly. I contend that would be enough to cause most, if not all, of these effects that we're hearing about with the long COVID. Stacked on top of the fact they've been locked down, no social interaction, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I've been saying from the beginning of this whole thing that when you are mentally in a space where you can't handle things and you get stressed out easy, you get anxiety easy, anxiety and stress can weaken your immune system even more. And that can make you even more sick. Your brain is a very, very powerful, organ in your body that can just make you even more sicker just by you being stressed or having anxiety. So I think that I'm not saying like your theory is like 100% true, but I think for a lot of the people that might be something that's going on. But it's how do we test for it? How do we screen for this? How do we figure out what's really going on?
Right. Hey, Phil, welcome to the chat, buddy. Yeah, and that's why I brought that up, because really I think they're purposely trying to keep us in a state of low information. And this goes to another question that I was asking. I was trolling people on Twitter today. I got back on Twitter. I haven't posted anything for a while, but I was like, yeah, you know what? Let me just, I want to get a little bit of action in today, so I did. And because everyone, again, they're talking about, Delta variant, hospitals in Ohio and Oklahoma are jam-packed, no beds. And, all these propaganda stories about like, we had to airlift a child from this Houston hospital because everything's full. I simply asked the question, what percentage of these people were obese? Not only could nobody answer, but they treated that as a hostile encounter Because it's like, oh
yeah.
wait, you're asking questions? How dare you? How dare you say it's okay for fat people to die? That was the conclusion that some of these mentally ill people came to, just from me simply asking what the statistics were. They were like, oh, you think it's okay for fat people to die? Oh, Jesus, these guys they've been worked over harder than I thought they were, man. These people are in a severe state of mental illness. But I'm just asking what the data is. You know they have that data available, right? How many people in the ICU were obese or are obese, but nobody ever talks about it.
Yeah, they're obese or they have a heart condition or lung problems or diabetes or something like that. How many of them have like these underlying health conditions? And yes, obesity is a overly major health condition as well. So yeah, what is the percentage of these people that actually have like these problems going on underlying on top of, trying to treat the coof?
So if we were living in a society where they wanted you to be as informed as possible, what would we see? We would see graphs, pie charts, line graphs all over TV and the internet saying, oh, we had 80 COVID deaths last week, and this is the proportion of them that were over 75. This is the number of them that were obese. This is the number of them that had underlying conditions. This is the number of them that had diabetes. Like, give me all the data that you have around, because we know you have it. We all know you have it, but you don't want to share it. And that's a red flag. That's a big, big red flag that indicates to me, I'm not going to assume, but I have to, draw some kind of conclusion from the fact that you don't want to share this information, and that conclusion points toward the direction of you don't want us to know this information. So I got to wonder why you don't want us to know. That's all I'm saying.
Well, because it would hurt people's feelings if we actually knew the real data of all the, well, and plus you don't really want your medical information shared with people. It's like you don't really want people to know that you have like a heart problem or lung problems or diabetes or, any of these other factors that might contribute to you being hospitalized from COVID. So, of course, they're going to be sensitive about that. But if you don't want to wear a mask, they're going to blast you all over the internet and make you out to be this terrible person that wants grandma to die.
Funny you say that, because we have an example here of what happens when somebody says the truth. In this particular case, we're talking about a female, a woman, 31-year-old professional paintballer. Osa's called it in chat. It's a good segue, thank you. Who got in a little bit of trouble after making a TikTok calling out a COVID patient and basically saying exactly what we're saying here. Like, hey, you're fat. You don't need a vaccine. Her words were, quote, you need an effing treadmill.
Wow.
This is from NewYorkPost.com, and we're going to give you two examples today of people being offensive, people hurting some feelings, as you said, Delaney, and showing you what happens in today's modern American society when you say something that hurts feelings. And to be honest, that's really all this does. When you say that somebody needs a treadmill, that's all you're doing is hurting their feelings. You're not breaking their leg. You're not giving them brain damage. You're not draining their bank account. There is nothing that happens to you when your feelings are hurt. That is the extent of the reaction. And let's see what happened here. So, a professional paintballer was kicked off her team Monday for making fun of a teenager infected with COVID-19 and saying he doesn't need the vaccine, but instead a effing treadmill. The video's since been deleted, but there is a reaction video to it that was recorded, and apparently I don't have that linked here, but I would share that anyway. She's, a rather attractive 31-year-old woman. Obviously she fits the bill of the kind of person that would say that, because she's attractive, she's fit, she plays sports, so she understands meritocracy. She has kind of a southern accent, probably like a South Carolina accent. So, I mean, it's, when people wonder why I like to classify things with particular traits and try to draw conclusions from those, it's because it's repeatable and it's reliable. Okay, this isn't a fat, ugly, purple-haired chick saying this. This is an attractive, athletic woman saying this. So, anyway, she was kicked off the team, called a vile human, and Yeah, and then they had launched an investigation into her. Quote, our investigation into the troubling conduct of Mrs. Maiolo has been concluded, and we have decided to remove her from the team indefinitely. The team wrote in a statement posted to their Instagram account saying the decision is final and in effect immediately. And then, of course, she had come up with the whole pre-scripted apology and whatnot.
She shouldn't have apologized.
Yeah, I know. She did apologize, and she broke the rule. She apologized, but she's a woman, so she's a little more feelings oriented. So maybe
right, yeah, and she's pro paintballer, even though I didn't know pro paintballing existed. But to probably try to salvage her career, she probably just apologized, just to be like, you know what, I'm sorry. Please don't kick me off the U.S. paintball team. I didn't mean it, even though I really did. But I'm just saying this so that way you don't cancel me, even though you're already canceling me.
But I mean, look, this is the truth, okay? And the guy that she was talking about, he was a 17-year-old kid, but he was fat. Okay, he was a football player, and we don't. This is the thing. We don't want to talk about the truth anymore. We don't want to actually look at and interpret reality. We don't want to say, well, maybe it's a good thing to take a little personal responsibility and lose weight, as opposed to having to rely on somebody to make an emergency use authorization vaccine that I can take. Let's try to live a healthier lifestyle.
Yeah. Well, you said the kid plays football.
Mm-hmm.
How is, I know that in football, some of the offensive linemen or the defense will be kind of bigger dudes, but they work out, they're fit, even though they're bigger dudes. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, maybe that's why they went after her, because, in their minds, they're my son is active and he is playing football. So it's not like he's not exercising. He's just one of those kind of bigger boys out there that just, he may just kind of fill out a little bit more differently. Maybe that's why they canceled her. Not because, that, yeah.
Okay, I see that.
I don't know.
You're being a little generous. I like it.
I'm just trying to be generous to, because talking crap about a kid that does require some not she needs to get canceled, but there may be a little bit more reflection on her part as what you really want to go after people for on the internet. But I don't know.
Well, I think at that point it's more of a critique of the parents, right? She's saying you need a treadmill. It's kind of a message to the parents because
well, when you attack a parent, they're gonna clap back right quick. So
yes, that too, of course. So never apologize, like Oza says in the chat. That's right, man. Don't apologize. Do not do it, guys. If you're gonna make a spicy TikTok video, don't apologize. Okay, follow the lead of this gentleman from Washington, from Aberdeen. Let's go to the flip side. Okay, I told you I'd give you two examples. One person who did it right and one person who did it wrong. Let's go and look at what happens when you offend people and do it the right way.
Hell yeah. Let's do it.
This one is great. You guys are going to love this.
Yeah.
From pinknews.com, I found the most mutant outlet I could possibly find for the story because the wording is just hilarious. It turns into a comedy article just from reading it. So, trans councilwoman bravely confronts Star Wars store owner over vile transphobic sign. What a title. Whew. That is a doozy of a title right there.
Bravely?
Oh, so brave.
Bravely, so brave. Her 6'4" ass going after an old man.
So
brave.
No, this 6'4" woman confronting it as this little old crotchety man. But
I know.
So this is from, like I said, Aberdeen, Washington. Tiesa Meskis, I don't even know how to say her name, challenged, and challenged is spelled incorrectly. Good job, pinknews.com. Challenged, maybe it's French. It's a new French word. Challenged. Challenged Don Suture, the owner of Suture and Sons Star Wars shop in Aberdeen, Washington, over an offensive sign that said, quote, "If you are born with a dick, you are not a chick."
It's so good.
I mean, I want to go there just to visit that. I think that's that's a monument to the city now. It's a tourism destination. I would pay money to see that just because that's hilarious. In a video widely shared on Twitter, Meskis, a member of the Aberdeen City Council, interesting. Okay, a member of City Council going out crying about transphobia. Is there any incentive here for them to make a stink and get publicity? I don't know. she can be heard saying, "Trans women are women. That sign is BS." And
Okay.
in response, Sutra yells, "You're nuts. I'm telling you that as a man. That's BS." So let's just listen to the video and hear the interaction for ourselves.
You are nuts. You're not a woman. You don't look like a woman. You don't act like a woman.
The confrontation started inside.
Trans women are women!
So he says, "You don't look like a woman. You're not a woman." And then she goes outside and yells, "Trans women are women." Like, hey, look at me. Everybody look at me. You know, trying to make a thing out of it. Whereas she could have just walked away. But no, of course not.
I mean, that is kind of a female response to like scream and yell and try to get people to join your side just by screaming and yelling like nothings. So
It's true.
That is very female, but you know, I think they need to modify their trans women are women statement. They need to say trans women think they're women like that should be their statement.
Oh, nice. I like that. Okay, let's continue on here. It gets better, guys. It gets better.
Trans women are women!
And spilled into the street.
You are not a chick.
Aberdeen Councilwoman Tiesa Meskis confronted owner Don Suker about a sign he posted in his store saying, "If you are born with a slang for a male body part, you are not a chick."
I don't care what they do, but don't come in here and complain to me about stuff. I have free speech.
Can you argue with that rationale?
Right.
I don't care
Right.
what you do, but don't come in here and complain to me. It's his shop.
Right.
Why did he, they, it go into the shop and start crying? Because there's an incentive for them to go viral online, to get votes for the city council position that she's going for, to become a martyr. Oh yeah, you fought the evil old man. Now you're a martyr. Good job.
Yeah, you fought the evil old white man. Good job. Golf clap for you for sticking it to the evil old white dude that sells Star Wars memorabilia.
And you know, when of course they're going to ask him, "Don't you feel regret for saying this? Don't you feel mean, like you hurt his feelings? You hurt her feelings?" Yeah, listen to the reaction here. Listen to his reaction.
Suker says anyone who disagrees with him does not need to spend money at his store, where that sign was still visible today.
And everybody's loved it. Everybody's taking pictures of it. Everybody laughs.
Not everybody loved it, as we saw.
Well, yeah.
And some people think it's hurtful.
Well,
He told us that this hurt.
But here's the thing. I don't give about feelings anymore. I'm 70, I'm 8. I went to Vietnam to fight for all this. Do you think I care about some feelings? Absolutely not.
Support.
Oh man. For those on stereo who maybe didn't hear the video, which you should go to youtube.com/weeklynarrative, he basically said, "Do you think I give a bleep about this asshole's feelings? No, I don't. I don't care at all. I went to Vietnam to fight for my free speech. I don't give a rip." And just completely 100% unapologetic. And I want to give this guy.
Yeah, I want to give that guy a clap too. I want to go to Aberdeen and go to his shop and buy that sign. Just give him my money.
I bet that sign will end up being auctioned off on the internet and sold for a lot of money.
I mean, the whole thing that the trans woman was trying to do was try to like slander this man and make him look like a bigot and like drive people away from going to his shop and buying his product, when it's actually going to work in the opposite direction. People are actually going to go to his shop now and buy from his store. And if he doesn't have an online store, he's probably going to make so much money that he's going to have an online store so he can just ship his stuff internationally. So it kind of backfired on them. That's why the whole like confronting people in their own businesses idea that the spaghetti people have is so like ludicrous to me. It's like, if you see something that offends you, instead of confronting and getting all up in their face and making a big stink and screaming and yelling, just move on. Like, you make yourself look stupid by confronting, especially something as stupid as that. You make yourself look dumb by confronting, when it's way smarter to just move the F on and go about your day and live your life. Like, it's not, you're not going to die by a stupid sign that you're not going to buy. Like, what? Like, it's a stupid sign.
Well, see, the sign somehow takes away their rights as a trans person to exist. At least that's what they would tell you. I don't know how exactly that works, what the metaphysics is of that whole interaction, but that's what they would say. That would be their argument.
Wow.
So
that's hilarious.
Props to him. And I want to point out that he said in there, everybody loves it, everybody takes pictures of it, everybody laughs. Because the majority of people out there know that this is all BS. This is all just, we're playing a game, we're doing the sock puppets, like, oh yeah, I'll say your pronouns, whatever. But nobody actually really cares, and everybody knows that those people are actually mentally ill.
Yep.
But you just can't say that out loud in public because it's not socially acceptable to do so.
Yeah.
So they are the ones who are underground. They're the ones who are kind of rebelling against the status quo. The people who are, on the opposite end of that papers, please culture, where, we're not the ones that are 100% in line with the culture that ends up producing the papers, please. We're on the opposite side. Okay, so just wanted to point that out. I thought that was funny, and it's good to see that he kept it up and it's thriving. He's getting a lot of business for it.
I remember when I was younger. This was before I figured out that I was a lesbian. My uncle, after he got out of the military, he bought a bumper sticker for his car. And my uncle at the time was going to school in San Francisco after he got out of the military. And he had a bumper sticker on his car that said, lesbians are only cool when they're both hot. Well, he was only in San Francisco. Well, he was in San Francisco for like a month. He was there for like a month, and somebody went and like scratched out his bumper sticker because they just could not handle. They just could not handle his bumper sticker. That's the same kind of mentality that this trans woman has. It's like, how about instead of getting mad and defacing somebody and like trying to slander somebody's name, how about you just move on, have a laugh? Like, it's so much easier to just laugh at something and move on than it is to scream and cry and yell and have a tantrum like a freaking child.
If they were human, a human could do that. A human would understand that there's, humor, jokes, and that a sign is not going to hurt you. A bumper sticker is not going to hurt you. Miklo El Chicano. Go ahead.
I was going to say, people just having their own opinions about these things is not going to really affect you in any way, shape, or form. Like, I thought we were stronger than this and that we could handle words.
Well, there's nothing more authoritarian than making everyone conform to your thought process, your ideology, right? Like, you're not even allowed to say something that might offend people. And when somebody does, like this guy, or the chick who said, you're having problems with COVID because you're fat, then they are assaulted for that. El Chicano says the funny part is that's a council member. Yes, it was voted for in that position. Yes, we are done. Yes. Yeah.
It. No, I love how we referred it to as an it.
Those things are. That was voted into office. So yeah, that gives you an indication of Aberdeen, Washington. I would probably advise not buying a house there.
Yeah, I'll go and visit. I'll go and visit this guy's shop specifically, but living there, no thanks. If that's who they vote in for their city council.
All right, I've neglected the stereo for a while. Let's go to stereo and see what the comments are saying here. We got to rewind about 20 minutes on these.
I'm totally on board with defunding the police. I think I've said that before, but we can see where this is all going. They get paychecks and they get to fuck us. So I'm not down with that. I don't want authoritarianism. I want to do what I want to do. I want the cops to leave me alone.
Hell yeah.
That's a good point.
It was funny though watching Lori Lightfoot and her crocodile tears after some cop got smoked in Chicago.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I watched
so
that too.
The chickens come home to roost eventually, and we know they want their cops back. They just wanted their wanton destruction to get rid of the Orange Man. That's not a huge revelation or anything.
Mm-hmm. Well, the same way a child kind of throws a tantrum and ruins, all the things in the room to get a short-term gain. It's the same thing, just on a larger scale. These people are just, children who throw short-sighted temper tantrums to get Orange Man out, and then they don't realize that they're throwing away their entire future in the process. But don't
realize that throwing tantrums doesn't really get you what you really want in the end. Because but then again, kids these days, they throw a tantrum, they get what they want. When I threw a tantrum, I got my booty whipped. So
you had parents.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Osis has got a good point. When you frame it that way, like, yeah, I'm for defunding the police too, because those are going to be the ones who come and try to take away your guns. Those are going to be the ones who try and see the papers, right? Papers, please. It's going to be the cops. Like I said at the beginning of the stream, they're the ones asking for the papers. So if they're not there, then well, who's going to do it?
Right.
All right, let's go back to Kizza.
This is perfect ammunition as to why the French should be colonized by the English and the Americans in order to put them in their place. Change my mind.
Kizza says French should be colonized by English because of that. Yeah, okay, maybe. Will that fix it, though? I don't know.
I don't know.
England's not doing too hot right now themselves.
I say let them do them, and they'll self-destruct just like the United States is. So just let them go.
Moneypenny.
Sorry, guys. I'll argue about the long COVID thing, but some people in our group are athletes, Olympic athletes, European athletes, people that ran 43 kilometers a day every day. We're not weak. I've been through a lot worse. This is real long COVID.
Yeah, we're not saying long COVID isn't real, Miss Moneypenny. Like, we know that there are the people that have had it and they're still suffering from it, but we're just trying to point out that how many of that number and how many of that percentage is it actually long COVID, or is it just their mind really making them more sick and making them believe that they have it?
Yeah, I think my explanation allowed for the possibility for perfectly healthy athletic people to have legitimate long COVID, but then also the majority of long COVID probably not being what we think it is. That's kind of, in a nutshell, I think what I would say.
Yeah.
Paul?
That trans woman's triceps are probably bigger than my hamstrings, and I bet her dick is bigger than mine too. Just saying.
Man, you boys, I swear, with your naughty language, I'm over here trying to be good and not drop F-bombs, and you guys just drop F-bombs and wiener bombs and everything.
We got Gary in stereo. I think it's a new guy.
Oh shit, that boy got fucked up. That fucking she got dealt with. They thought that was an online form, and that was an old man from the old school who don't even know how to use a computer. And he handled that she.
Hell yeah, man. He handled that she. I love this guy. Welcome, Gary.
He thought it was an internet forum. Yeah, no, that's exactly what it is, man. There's gonna come a point in time where these people realize that they can't act like this in real life, and they're gonna interact with the wrong person and learn a hard lesson one day.
Right.
And
exactly.
They're lucky that these Vietnam veterans are that old now, because I wouldn't want to provoke a healthy, 50-year-old Vietnam veteran. Let's just say that.
Right. Yeah. You would not want to do that because, well, I mean, I really give that old man credit, because even though she was way taller than him, had bigger triceps, way bigger build, that short, crotchety Bernie Sanders looking dude stood his ground and was like, I'm not going to let you intimidate me just because you're bigger than me. He's like, look at you. He even said in the video, he's like, look at you. You don't even look like a woman. You're gigantic. Like, you don't even look like a woman. And a woman wouldn't act like this if you were a real woman. And I love how he even said, do you have a dick still? And she was like, how dare you ask me that? It's like, well, do you? We all want to know. We need these facts.
Yep. Crazy upside down world we live in. Folks, if you like the content you're listening to or watching, we're halfway through the show. You usually do about 2 hours. But feel free to like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Get the engagement up. We do have the podcast being redistributed to all platforms, iTunes, Google, and Stereo. No, what's the other? I forgot what the other one is. Stitcher. Yeah, that's it, Stitcher. So we're catching up on the old episodes on that. We'll be up to date shortly on that. So if you prefer to listen to us, those are becoming available again. So don't forget to get the engagement up. Come on, guys. Get the engagement up.
Get the thumbs up or thumbs down. We'll take a thumbs down too.
I like thumbs
we
down.
like the thumbs down. Yeah, we prefer those, but thumbs ups are always great.
All right. Let's move on to a new topic here. We're talking about the economy, shortages, supply chains, manufacturing, microchips, stuff that nobody wants to really talk about. It's not as flashy. It's not as emotionally provoking, right? But we have to talk about it because it is happening. Now, I've heard stories.
Yep.
I don't know if you've heard stories, Delaney, but I've had stories from people that I know in real life who've said things like they had to wait in line at a car dealership to test drive a car that the dealership only had one of. So imagine going to a car dealership. There's one car of, well, let's just say a Subaru Outback or something, right? And there's 20 people in line to test drive it. And there's one car. All they have is one in the whole region.
Wow.
Because this is the state of new cars right now. Why? Because there's a global microchip shortage happening right now.
I was gonna say, are we in Mother Russia or communist China where they only have one of everything until you can afford what you really need?
Yeah, right. No, it's almost seems that way. And I have a truck that's being repaired right now, an engine replacement, and the mechanic that I'm working with says he has about 20 cars in his lot waiting for parts because there are no parts in the supply chain. So there's 15 to 20 people that can't drive their cars because he can't get the parts either. So there's a massive shortage right now, and I don't know why this isn't being mentioned anywhere at all, but we're talking about it right here. And as I mentioned, this is due to a microchip shortage. Now, I think the majority of microchips are produced in Southeast Asia, I think.
I was going to say, Kizza, where are you at to drop that knowledge for us? Because Kizza would know where they're manufactured.
Yeah, and not only are we seeing increased shipping container prices, so it costs a lot more to just ship something from Asia to America, but they can't even produce them fast enough. Now, there's multiple different narratives, multiple different directions you could go with this story. I think the most pertinent one is, the fact that we've already seen through COVID where we can't even produce enough toilet paper, we can't produce our own PPE, we have to wait for China, the one who gave us the virus, to produce the PPE for us because we can't even produce our own stuff anymore. This is a lesson in globalism. It's really what it is. And I know that there's a lot of people in chat who hate globalism, and they have this emotional attachment to hating globalism. I too dislike globalism, but guess what, guys? You don't have to make these Alex Jones style, the globalists are coming the globalists are behind every bush, they're coming for you. There are logical, rational reasons to easily discredit globalism that you can make just as easily, and this is one of them. Okay, should America be able to produce its own microchips, to produce its own cars, to produce its own stuff? Should America be able to produce its own oil? Should America be able to produce its own personal protective equipment? I think the answer is yes. I don't think it's a good idea to rely on places like China or Taiwan to produce these for us because that introduces too many variables, too many things that could go wrong. Okay, what happens if there's a storm? The boats can't dock. The boats can't travel. What happens if there's a supply chain outage somewhere over in Russia? They can't get the basic materials to produce these things. There's so many. Something goes wrong with the economy or the politics of one of these countries, like China. There's so many things that can go wrong, and I get that we all love cheap iPhones and all that, but I would pay a little bit more for everything if I knew we could make it all in-house. That's just my opinion.
Right. Same. I would rather it be made on American soil with people that are from this country and know that it's coming from my country rather than relying so heavily on an outside force to produce it for me just because it's cheaper. And just to point out with a lot of these countries where they're manufacturing these things, most of the time they don't pay their workers very well or don't pay them at all, or it's child labor. And because of all those three things, a lot of the times it doesn't even get put together correctly. I remember when you were living here in Sac, you were telling me about the lighting system that you had in your studio and how they were probably put together by Chinese children. And I was like, yep, you're probably right. And he's like, yeah, that's why some of them don't work.
Yeah. No, you just expect some of them to not work. If you order something off of Alibaba or AliExpress, which I've ordered, from both, those are Chinese. That's like Chinese Amazon. Those are like direct wholesalers. You just kind of expect a lot of that stuff not to work because the quality is so terrible. So that's a whole other part of the argument that I didn't even mention, which is a great point, because when this stuff is made over there, it's trash quality. It's all trash.
it's not, they don't have the same like quality standards that we, I mean, not saying like everything in America that's produced is like has a great quality standard, but I feel like our quality standard is a little bit better than a lot of other people.
Stalking Horse says China has a high cost for suicide nets. Yes, I think there's probably a correlation there. But just to give you an idea before we jump into the stereos, because I heard a few of those come in, let's see what's happening with this. What's the effect of these shortages? So amid inventory shortage, used prices approach new, in reference to cars. This is from Cars.com. We examined median prices in June 2021 from Cars.com dealers for new 2021 model year vehicles and their 1 year old used counterparts. We'll caution that dealer listed prices aren't always the same as the negotiated prices consumers actually pay in today's environment. The latter might be influenced by demand and availability, but they're a useful bellwether nonetheless. And what did we find? While new vehicles still come with a higher median price overall than their 1 year old counterparts, the difference is now substantially smaller than compared with new and lightly used vehicles before the COVID-19 pandemic. As of June 2021, a 1 year old model car had a median price of $36,750 at Cars.com. That falls below the $38,817 median price of new cars, 2021 models. So we're talking about like less than $2,000 difference between the median price of a used car and a brand new car, because there's such a high demand for these used cars because there's no supply of the new cars. They need to get the used cars. The demand is so high that the price is almost exactly the same as the new cars. And we all know that when you buy a new car, it immediately drops in massively in value as soon as you drive it off the lot, right? So I would expect that difference of just driving it off the lot to exceed that $2,000, but we're way beyond that at this point. That's how vast this shortage is. So what the inventory shortage really comes to light is where you can compare the overall situation with vehicle prices just 2 years ago. In June 2019, a 1 year old used car from 2018 had the median price of $27,000, while the then new 2019 cars had a median price of $35,000. Okay, so to compare the 1 year gap, it was almost $10,000 when you compare 2019 to 2018. Now, from 2021 to 2020, it's less than $2,000. So, I mean, that's massive. But Ford, I think there was some numbers in here. Ford said their revenue is like almost cut in half. They're at $1.5 billion down. They're producing like 700,000 less vehicles. So that's what we're talking about here, okay? Dealerships across the country are empty. Lots are empty in a lot of places. The further you are from the manufacturing facilities and the assembly facilities, the worse it is. And I've heard stories of completely empty lots myself. So this is a real thing. It's a great time to sell your used car. Not so great to buy one. So with that said, Delaney,
makes me want to drive by all the used car lots that I live by and see if they have see what they got.
Yeah, see how expensive they are.
Yeah, right?
All right. Let's go to Kizza in stereo.
Yes, Jeremy, I believe I brought this up at least a few times on your show regarding the global chip shortage.
Yes.
And as I work in the automotive industry, that has royally screwed with my pay. And I'm not happy. I don't like losing money because of things that are not in my control.
Yep.
Yeah, I imagine
absolutely, Kizza.
If they can't assemble the cars, that means these people can't make any money.
Yeah, and
I would also
go ahead.
I was gonna say, and I mean, now these new cars, the chips and all the electronics that are attached to them, it's not like how old cars were made, where the electronics were not really as integrated as they are now. So that in and of itself is a big whammy on the automotive industry.
Oh yeah, these cars have had computers in them since probably like the late '80s, but the amount of things that are controlled by computers in these cars has exponentially increased. Every single little thing on these cars is run by computers now, as opposed to just the firing cylinders. It's everything. So yeah, it's getting bad. What's up, Holly? Welcome to the chat.
Hi, Holly.
Let's see here. Okay.
Get Kiz's comment back if we can.
Yep, we're gonna replay this one.
I would also add the majority of silicon chip manufacturing is done in either China or Taiwan, one of the two. But I did hear that factory in particular had a massive fire which caused the shortage to begin with.
See?
But I have also heard apparently they are trying to decentralize the production of silicon chips, but that takes at the minimum 18 months to pull off. So we're going to have this shortage for at least another 12 months.
Great.
Yay!
Awesome. Globalism. Yay. So,
yeah, right.
So there you go. See, I was giving you examples, how many different variables can affect your ability to buy a new car in America. A fire in a factory in Taiwan should not be a variable. Okay, just think about that logically. I want to buy a car in America. Why does a building getting on fire in Taiwan affect that ability for me to buy a new car here? It shouldn't. And yet people think that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, because people have been ingrained and have been just reliant on Taiwan and China to manufacture all the parts for us. And again, like, this is why we should allow the U.S. to manufacture our own stuff. Like, if that way, if the microchip plant in Taiwan sets ablaze, we have a factory here in the United States that can manufacture and produce all the things that are going to be needed that the Taiwanese cannot do for us.
Yeah, at least have some kind of redundancy. If maybe we don't predominantly make our supplies here in America, but maybe there's a small
backup.
A small market share that we do produce in America that we could at least kind of fall back to. But I don't even think we have that. I don't think there's any production.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not a good system.
There's no backup for our backups, which is like really just not smart to do. You should always have a backup plan for just in case, a bug out bag, a bug out bag for all of our industries. Like, they need to have some kind of backup, so that way we can, if something does happen to our outsourcing, we have the ability to kind of pick it up and be able to supply ourselves instead of relying on all the outsourcing that we have.
Well, think about it this way. I'm going to reframe it in a way that maybe a lot of you people haven't heard before. But in the cybersecurity world, cybersecurity and really any security, if you think about it, is made up primarily of three main things, and we call it the CIA triad. No, not the CIA you're thinking of, but CIA meaning it's a abbreviation for C means confidentiality, the I means integrity. And the A means availability. Availability is a big factor in security. So when we're talking about like national security, for example, do you think the availability of supplies factors in? Availability of medical supplies, availability of food, availability of manufacturing goods, availability of microchips, computer parts, etc., etc. That, I would argue, is a big component in security, the same way that availability is a big factor in cybersecurity.
Arian in YouTube chat says American-made stuff sucks. Just push the production to Japan and Germany because I want reliable products, not shabby built quality like American goods are.
Hey.
All right, Arian. All right, I see you.
Well, we need to change it up so that we can actually make good stuff in America. Yeah, maybe we don't make the best stuff here yet, but we can get there. We can build back better. Okay.
Yeah, if we stop outsourcing to China and Taiwan, then maybe we would actually have the opportunity to build better than what we have been producing in the past. So how are we gonna build better if we just keep giving it to cheaper labor, cheaper everything? It's not going to get better if we just rely so heavily on other countries that don't really have their people's best interests in heart when it comes to manufacturing these stuff.
Yeah, that's a good point. If it's always about the bottom line, that would kind of indicate the quality would always be in a downward trajectory. Holly says her dealer has been offering a buyback for her truck. So I imagine that's probably a fairly normal thing these days. Dealers are like, hey, the car we sold you, well, yeah, we'll give you
somebody wants it, so we'll give you a nice price for it if you just sell it back to us, and then leave you without a car.
Yep. Okay, we got Osis and a bunch more super chats here, or super chats. I wish we had a bunch of super chats. Come on, people.
Yeah, man, where are the super chats at?
Osis and a bunch of stereo chats.
Well, it's not just car bars. There's shortages all over the place. warehouse I do work at, they have the automatic fast close doors, roll-up doors. They're broken. They can't get parts. The mechanic can't get parts. My mom works for a food distributor, and she has accounts with Lamb Weston, McCain, and J.R. Simplot, and they're out of potatoes, believe it or not. Another thing there's a nationwide shortage of, until at least October, is onion rings, believe it or not. So there's shortages all over the place, especially when it comes to food.
Yeah.
And electronics, too. There's an international silicone shortage, but we're not looking that great right now.
No, and I read something about chicken wings. There's chicken wing shortages.
No, hell no. You better not keep me from my damn chicken wings, y'all.
I don't know how cushioned I am, how buffered I am being in Texas, but you know, gas is cheap here. But I know when I left California, it was like almost $5 a gallon there for that too. So yeah, you're right, man. It's across the board. It's everything. It's not. I used to think it was just shortages for food, but then I got into the car stuff and microchips. It's across the board. It's everywhere.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Murph,
is there a way to know if a difference in value? I had a car. I was making payments on it. Okay, let's say I've got it. It's all done. It's mine. And we go and sell it for $4,000, and I think it's worth $6,000, and I sell it for $4,000 because according to the blue book, it was roughly $6,000 for good, and it's gone. Now, had I waited even 1 year, or I forget however many months ago I sold it, but anyway, would it be worth $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 now?
Yeah.
Is there a way to identify that?
I don't know, man. I don't know. It'd probably be worth a lot more now because of all the shortages.
Yeah, no, I did actually hear a story about people selling trucks above the blue book value. So I would venture a guess that yes, you could have probably sold it for quite a bit more now, as opposed to back then. Likely even above the blue book value, because I've heard of that happening quite commonly. There was a video I watched on YouTube. I don't have it handy, but they were talking about how people were selling their trucks above blue book value. So yeah, unfortunately, you probably could have got some more cash for it.
Yeah. Oh, we got a super chat from the Supreme Emperor Kizza in YouTube.
There we go, Kizza. Thank you, Kizza. Appreciate that. £5. Says, as both of you ask so nicely, here's one from your favorite Supreme Emperor. All these problems is why we need Kizza-ism. So Kizza tries to shill his own philosophy, I suppose you could say. He doesn't ever really say what it is, but he just calls it Kizza-ism all the time. And he is free to shill on Super Chats here as much as he wants.
Yep.
Thank you, Kizza. Appreciate that, buddy.
That maybe when we have Kizza on the show again, we will ask him what Kizza-ism is, so that way he can explain it to our listeners and as best as he can.
Maybe so, or maybe we'll keep the mystery to keep the intrigue,
Yeah. Or maybe you'll just all go and subscribe to his YouTube channel, so that way he can explain what Kizza-ism is in his own words.
Okay. Oh, and we had just another $5 super chat come in. Is that who is it? Oh no, he changed his name. Anyway, his new name is
Steve. I think that's Steve.
Steve Husted. Yes, that's right. He says, "Truly sorry to hear to the passing of Billy Barty. You sir left a huge shadow. Rest in peace." Okay, so we have to.
I know we got to Google
it's always
Billy Barty.
Obscure people that he brings up here that we have to. Billy Barty. Okay, he died in 2000. I don't even know who this guy is, but
I don't know who he is.
Rest
either.
in peace. Here's a good picture of him there to commemorate. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. $5 super chat. As always, we love those. Okay. We had a few more stereo chats to get through. This is Paul.
Yeah, just talking about the chip shortage. I'm, I guess, an investor. I'm certainly not the owner of a privacy-oriented smartphone. Pr0paganda, Prurism. They're awesome because they have like hard kill switches for the Wi-Fi signal for the GPS. and it's not Google, and it doesn't use Google's I don't remember what the backbone of that is. It's not iPhone. It is a new operating system. I spent that money September last year, and the email says like they're gonna start their proper production like October this year, and that they're probably gonna get through the bulk of their actual shipments like March 2022. So yeah, I've felt this chip shortage for a while. It sucks.
Actually, now that you mentioned that, yeah, I remembered I was trying to order a chip for a direct memory access chip for your computer, where it allows me to read the memory in real time and kind of export it to other computers, or manipulate it and do all kinds of hacker stuff with it. And I couldn't order it. The chips are out of supply so it affected my work as well. Phil C says, I hear this year's Corvette's MSRP $58,000 are selling for $100,000.
Dang.
Not sure if true, but I think that's... I did look at Corvettes, actually, and they seemed a bit pricier than normal. Yeah, people can't get computer graphics cards either for their computers, because, first of all, people buy them right up as soon as they get offered, but they can't produce enough. They can't produce enough. I'm going to look into that phone. That's a good suggestion. I think that's going to be an increasingly big industry coming up here soon, as people realize that everything you do on your phone is being tracked. Purism. I'll take a look at that, Paul. And here's Holly.
Hey guys, it's your favorite Canadian. I'm on my break, so I can give you a quick Canadian update. I know it doesn't have anything to do with cars, but anyway, recently we've had some breakouts for COVID cases. Nobody cares. The protesters are going crazy still because the date of the 16th is coming up very quickly for a full open, no tracing, no tracking, anything like that. They're going nuts. And there's this conspiracy theory going around that a young man from Red Deer, Alberta, took, I guess, the Alberta government to court and tried to get his ticket quashed, subpoenaed Dina Hinshaw, our health minister, and they discovered that the CoV SARS-2 wasn't trackable or traceable, but that has nothing to do with anything with our opening. It's a big conspiracy.
You got a follow-up here?
Second part. Yeah, so that conspiracy theory has been now debunked. That court case has nothing to do with the Alberta government opening up. The Alberta government looked into the science of everything, and our top doctors have declared this an endemic, and that's why we're going into the full opening. So
perfect.
Correlation doesn't necessarily equal causation, as we all know, and but it's an interesting case with Patrick King and his suing the Alberta government. He did get his ticket quashed, his $1,200 fine for protesting during lockdowns, but yeah, fun little story. Anyway, I drive an '08 Golf, which runs great, and they keep offering us money for the 2017 Dodge 1500 that my husband's put work into, and he's not letting that baby go. Love our gas cars.
Yes,
don't let it go, Holly.
Yeah, that it's shocking that Alberta, in Canada, Canadians are the first ones to get this thing right, treating COVID as endemic. Why is it taking so long for America to actually do that? That's another big red flag, because that's really what it is. It's going to be here forever. We already see, the vaccines aren't really being that effective in stopping the spread. Even places like Israel, where they have huge percentages of people already vaccinated, sometimes even with multiple vaccines, they're still getting cases. I think they just actually advised a travel advisory to Israel today because it's so bad when almost all of them are vaccinated. So, yeah, good job, Alberta. Good job up there, Holly. Keep up the good work.
Yep. Thank you for the comment, Miss Holly. We love you and appreciate your Canadian insight.
All right. Yeah, everyone's talking about the new Corvettes in chat, too. I want one of those new mid-engine Corvettes, man. Those things look like... Those things are amazing. But sounds like I'll have to wait a few years to get one. So
yeah, wait a little bit, Jeremy. Just wait. Yeah. You'll probably get something better in a few years.
All right, a few more super chats here, and then we'll get going on our next story.
But what you're saying, Jeremy, and Delaney, talking about how much electronics there are in the car, it's not just your climate control and your tire pressure sensors. There's also electric steering, fly-by-wire throttles, your automatic transmissions, active suspension, just to name a few things. You have an EMP go off, your cars basically cannot start, compared to cars from, let's say, pre-1980, where it's almost entirely mechanical.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yep. I know. I didn't know the ins and outs like you, Mr. Kizza, but I know that nowadays cars, like just driving in my dad's car, and he has like a newer model car. I think it's like a 2018, I believe. That car is like so electronically connected that it's like, wow.
You're just driving a computer. The whole thing is just a giant computer.
Yeah, it's like a giant computer. It's not just like the stereo and the climate control, like he said. It's way more than just that. I mean, heck, like even when he was talking about your automatic transmission and, you know, the firing sequence, like you don't even really see in very many manual transmission cars anymore because one, people don't know how to drive manual, and two, the way that they have the mechanics of the automatic vehicles are like, it's so electronically intertwined with your car that it's all this chip shortage is not going to be anything good.
Yep. And I forgot what I was going to say, so I'm just going to OSIS.
Regarding manufacturing in the United States, I would love for that to happen, but we have to be realistic. One of the big reasons we don't manufacture here as much anymore is environmental costs, and our government has made it nigh impossible to have any, how should I say this, any manufacturing that is not proper under the ideology, that doesn't follow the ideology. So they're just going to run you around the ringer to keep you from building your factories. And I just don't see that. They don't want manufacturing here. They don't. So I don't see that happening anytime soon. It's just not really a thing.
Unfortunately true. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
It's not as simple as just moving a factory. There's a lot of regulations and stuff that need to be removed.
I know that there's a lot of red tape when it comes to building a, manufacturing plant here in the United States. If I could have my way, I would let them have manufacturing plants, and I would try to cut down on the regulations to make it a little bit easier. So that way we're not in this predicament that we're in, where we're having food shortages, chip shortages, just shortages across the board when it comes to all these things. But unfortunately, yeah, you're right, OSIS, with how our systems are set up because of the environmentalism that's going rampant in this country. We don't want manufacturing. We don't want people to have American-made goods that are cost effective, and we can, to me it just doesn't make sense economically as well. Like, why are we depending so heavily on outside forces when we could just do it ourselves and also supply the rest of the world? Because if China and Taiwan are having shortages, and like say we build a manufacturing plant for the silicon chips, we could help the rest of the world and make ourselves money as well. But of course, like, people don't care about making money anymore either because capitalism is evil.
Oh, and there's also a question looming that, are we even going to be able to produce this stuff if we wanted to? And we're going to get right into that in our next segment, because we're going to be talking about education and how Oregon and Las Vegas are trying to crush our education standards. But we got two more comments here, one from Kizza and one from Murph.
A good rule of note when it comes to selling your car on the private market: go to a dealer first and see what price he gives you. Then whatever price he gives you, you can increase that by as much as 20% in the private market. That's a good way to tell.
Okay.
And never fall into the Jeremy Clarkson syndrome of selling cars rather than waiting, because he has a bad habit of selling the car before it spikes in value. No joke.
Jeremy Clarkson being the famous TV show host from England over there, the car guy.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I don't know who that is.
Murph.
Passing comment off topic, but thank you so very much for the enjoyment of listening to your program at this point.
Oh, you're welcome.
This is the most like listening to a radio, the old days. Let's go back to the old days. Listen to the show, your DJ comes on, If you're lucky, you get to call in and speak to him, and he responds to you. You guys are doing exactly that. This is awesome. I see so many personalities out here that this is just, I want to turn away. But you're good. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's kind of what we are going for, like the old school radio where you can call in and hear your voice on the radio kind of thing.
Yeah, appreciate that. Glad you're enjoying it because, we are here for you guys. So it's always good to hear that you're enjoying the content. And we have a pretty unique setup here, where we do pull in stereo comments, but we're also streaming live on YouTube. So there is a video component as well. So, for those of you on stereo who don't know, you can go to youtube.com/weeklynarrative and watch the stream there as well. With that being said, let's go to our children are being annihilated at a rapid pace segment.
I love how you titled that.
Starting with the, I usually call like the children are in trouble or something like that, but I decided we're basically going full bore. I mean, once you hear these new education standards, you're going to agree.
Yeah.
Let's go to first Clark County School District, which if you guys don't know is one of the largest school districts in the country. I believe it's out of Las Vegas, and they are introducing new academic grading standards for everything between grades kindergarten up through high school, or through elementary school. Okay, so let's take a look here. So the Clark County School District reports student achievement in elementary schools to identify mastery of grade-level Nevada academic content standards and district curriculum in designated content areas, ensuring equity and accuracy in reporting. Yep, there's that word, equity. Once you hear that, everything's basically going downhill, right? And this is gonna get bad. And this is all in the name of equity, of course, because it's for the racial groups who don't represent themselves as well in the statistics. So we have to change the standards to show that they're not performing well. Okay.
Yeah, because we don't want 5 kids to fail. We need to make sure all the other kids, the other 100 kids, are on the same page so they fail too. Yes.
So grades shall not be influenced by behavior or other non-academic measures. For example, being late or missing assignments, attendance, participation, and responsibility. They specifically mention, I think this is funny because they say grades won't be influenced by behavior or other non-academic measures. How is missing assignments not academic?
Right.
That's about as academic as it gets. If you're not doing the work, then you could literally just not turn in any assignments at all, and your grade won't change. Apparently now.
Well, yeah, and attendance as well. Like that's part of academics as well. You have to show up in order to learn these things.
Yeah, you would think that would be a key part of it. But anyway, here's how you will be graded in kindergarten. You will either meet. It just says meets, like meets. Hello, meets the standards or approaches the standards. There's no success or fail or anything like that. It's meets or approaches.
For kindergartners, they either meet it or they approach it. So they either are there or they're almost there.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Well, they're kindergartens, so that's fine. Who cares about the kindergartners, right? But elementary school, what's going on here in elementary school? The lowest possible score is now 50%. So you could do nothing at all. You can perform 0%, but you still get a 50%. And they don't call F failing anymore. Look at this new word they have for failing.
Emergent.
Meaning
like we need to, that's what would happen when you would get an F, is that you'd have like a meeting with your parents and be like, you guys, like your kid is failing. You need to do something about this. But now instead of failure, it's emergent. Like we need to do something about this.
There's also a W here that says working on standards below grade level.
Oh, wow. So if you just don't show up, don't do your work, don't participate, you're working on standards below grade level. I would say that's
standards below grade level. So does that mean like you're in 8th grade, you're doing terribly, but you're getting an A if you were in 6th grade? Is that what they're saying? Like you're according to the standard for 6th grade, as an 8th grader, you're doing terrible, but you're doing great for a 6th grader. That's kind of what it sounds like. I don't know exactly what that means, but just speculating on that one. But yeah, so that's you can be emergent now.
Yeah,
for
you're not failing, you're emergent. That means like we need to really get your parents involved. But I'm guessing that the reason why they're so emergent is because the parents really aren't that involved.
they're so emergent. They're so brave and emergent. We just have to replace the entire English language slowly with all these euphemisms that they use until it gets to the point to where it doesn't even sound like we're speaking actual legible English anymore. It's like, oh, these brave students are so emergent. Look at how, like, we're almost there. We're getting there.
Yeah.
And
we're on that slope.
For the second one, we'll jump over to Oregon and show you what's going on over there. It's almost, arguably, this is worse. Oregon, of course, we know where Portland is. Their state government, despite the fact that a lot of people in Oregon will, they live in the woods, they think they're conservative. They say, oh, this isn't all Portland, or this isn't all, we're not all Portland. They are entirely eliminating the requirements to even prove that you can read or write or do math at all to get a high school diploma.
Oh, wow.
Yes, that's right, folks. Let me go ahead and repeat that in case you didn't hear it. From the postmillennial.com, Oregon governor signs new law allowing students to graduate without proving that they can read, write, or do math. And of course, what gender is the governor?
A female.
What a coincidence. Okay, but anyway, an Oregon high school diploma does not guarantee that students who earned it can read, write, or do math at the high school level anymore. And this is the whole thing about it. We talk about this all the time, where they want to change the standards. They want to change, what it means to. We just looked at this from a college perspective, where they said, we want to make sure that more blacks and more minorities are getting into these colleges, because getting into the college carries with it a prestige that we want these black people to have access to. But you don't understand how this works. It has a prestige because of what it produces. It doesn't have a prestige just because of the name. In the same way that a high school diploma, just because you say, oh, hey, Louie, you can't read or write or do math, but now you have a high school diploma, that doesn't help them out at all. Because what's going to happen on the private sector? This is the public educational sector where they're devaluing the high school diploma. They're devaluing what it means to have a high school diploma. What's going to happen in the job market in regards to the high school diplomas?
It's going to diminish the job market a lot. I mean, these people that are going to get these high school diplomas out of Oregon now, where they don't need to know how to read, write, or do math, they're going to go and try to get a job with, say, the county or the state. And for those who don't know, if you try to get a job with the county or the state, you have to prove reading, writing, and math equivalency of some kind in order to be placed on a list to get a job with the state. So if you can't read, write, or do math, you're not going to be able to freaking get a job, at least a decent paying job.
Yeah, so, a lot of times when you're applying for a job, they say, we require a high school diploma. Well, that's going to change. That is going to change because these people are devaluing what it means to have a high school diploma. So you can no longer get the same performance level out of somebody when you put that on your job application. You say, we want a high school diploma. Well, if you know that the person now doesn't even have to, they can't even read or write, and by the way, minority communities in a lot of these states, I don't know about Oregon, but I know in California it's really bad. There's a high percentage of minority kids that can't even read at an adult level. So and now we're just eliminating the incentive for them to try and get to that stage. So they think this is such a stupid, short-sighted kind of feminine mindset where they're like, oh yeah, we'll just tell them they're amazing, you look great in that dress, you're totally not fat, but in reality you're 400 pounds and the dress is popping at the seams, right? Because your twisting of reality with words is not going to change the reality that is the fact that the dress does not fit you. It's not going to change the fact that the diploma isn't of itself not valuable. The diploma is an indication of value based on the merit that you have to achieve to get it. When you lower the level of merit you need to get to achieve it, then it reduces its value.
I mean, it used to be if you got your GED, that was less than diploma, but you still were smart enough to graduate and show that you can work and do your job. because you could read, write, and do math because that's part of like getting your GED.
Yep.
Now it's going to be the GED is going to be superior to the high school diploma because you have to show that you can read, write, and do math for the GED. But now it's like, no, for the high school diploma is going to be less than the GED.
Yeah. No, that's what's going to happen. We're going to, the paradigm is going to shift where we were all born and raised to think that there's a hierarchy, high school diploma or GED, community college, university, you name it. And then that's going to change now because of things like this. Stalking Horse says, "Welcome to Costco. I love you." Assuming
I love you too.
We're raising a generation of Walmart greeters, as Osa says. Yep, that's basically it. Would you like fries with that? Yes. This is as long as they know how to say that,
always.
Then they can be employed, right?
As long as they know how to cook the fries.
Dari says, so when future employers see what schools they went to, they will be asked to leave the premises. That's another thing that's going to happen. Is they're gonna create a reputation. Okay, the same way that certain schools have good reputations. If somebody sees that you're from this Oregon school district, or a school in Oregon, they're going to have second thoughts about hiring you.
Right.
And then when that happens, of course, they'll blame it on racism, and then the cycle will continue, and then they'll lower the standards for the jobs, and then society will crumble into dust. And thus it goes the cycle. So, let's so before we jump to the super chats, let's see why they rationalize doing this. Okay, so Governor Kate Brown dropped the requirement that students demonstrate they have achieved those essential skills by signing Senate Bill 744 into law. She declined again Friday to comment on why she supported suspending proficiency requirements, reported Oregon Live. So she wouldn't even comment on why.
Because she's a coward.
Charles Boyle, the governor's deputy communications director, said the governor's staff told legislative staff the same day the governor signed the bill, which came into law on July 29th. He added, Boyle said in an emailed statement that suspending the reading, writing, and math proficiency requirements will, quote, benefit Oregon's Black, Latino, Latina, Latinx, Indigenous, Asian, Pacific Islander, Tribal, and students of color. So there you go. That's why. He added leaders. Go ahead.
I was going to say it's for equity, Jeremy. That's why.
No, that's it. It's just for equity. Yeah. He added that the leaders from those communities have advocated time and time again for equitable graduation standards, along with expanding learning opportunities and support. So again, it's repetitive. We talk about it all the time. We see this in action. But once you understand, the world that you live in, you can predict patterns and then adapt based off those patterns. We know that it's all about smashing down the smart people, not bringing up the dumb people, not increasing their abilities. It's about, now you're emergent. You're not failing anymore. You're just emergent. And then eventually the scale is going to be so smashed that, we've already removed half the scale. We've literally removed half the scale because you can only get a minimum of 50% in Clark County School District for your grade. So that in and of itself is we can quantify it. The scale has reduced in size by 50% right there. So there you go. It's we're being compressed. That's what's happening.
So if you're smart, then just act dumb and you'll pass and you'll be able to fly through. Just act dumb. That's all you need to do. Survival.
All right, let's go to stereo.
This just reeks of the progressive version of George Bush Jr.'s version of
No Child Left Behind.
Sorry, but Common Core destroyed the education system in America. It should be destroyed and go back to catering to the best students in the class and telling everyone else to step up and beat them. Meritocracy is king. Mediocrity is garbage.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Kizza.
Well, that's what happens when you have an entire, the entire teachers union is dominated by women. The entire teachers profession is dominated by women. And we all know, of course, as we mentioned here plenty of times over and over and over, Women do not like meritocracy. They prefer fairness and feelings and equality and being nice and not being mean.
Yep.
So what do you think is going to happen to the entire education system over long periods of time when it's dominated by women? This is exactly the kind of thing you would expect to happen. So am I shocked? No, I'm not surprised at all. The only thing I'm surprised at is the speed at which we're progressing through this is not it's not fast enough. We're too slow. That's what's shocking. It's too slow.
It's too slow for how fast they want to progress.
Paul says, "Hey guys, thanks for fixing the podcast feed. I told you, Paul. See, we get it fixed for you, buddy. We should have the
working on it.
Should have the whole backlog up to date soon, so you can see all of our episodes on podcast format. For those of you who don't know, you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google under the name The Alt Centrist. That is the name of our podcast on those platforms. So if you prefer to listen, you can find us there.
Yep.
Let's see. Somebody else had a comment that I wanted to read here. They don't even bother to learn English in Texas, Cali, and Miami. Yeah, that's another whole aspect of it. We don't even talk about the fact that a lot of people coming in here aren't even learning the language.
Yep, they have entire classrooms, ESL, English second language, at schools. They have just entire sections of the schools just not blocked off, but it's just they have their own little, portables with teachers that speak whatever language they speak and teaching them the curriculum in their language instead of making them learn English.
All right, let's go to Holly.
This reminds me of the idiotic grading system that my daughter's school had. It was emerging, diverging, or something else that means that they were doing really, really well. I could never understand what was going on with it. But it also reminds me of back in the 90s when my older kids were in school and they stopped using red pen to mark grades because red was too aggressive. Oh my! Other kids can see it. Sorry, my dogs are playing in the background. Anyway, yeah, just go back to the good old percentages or ABCs. Give the winners their gold trophies, and show the losers that it is possible to get better. That's how you make good kids.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, and they would at the end of the quarter or the end of the semester, the teachers would hand out awards. And I remember getting my few awards that I did. I got awards for doing good, but then I would look around and I'd see all the kids around me had way more awards than me. It didn't make me go, we need to change the grading system and we need to make me have as many awards as the other kids. It made me go, wow, I need to work harder if I want to get the same amount of awards as all the kids around me are getting. But then again, like Jeremy said earlier in the stream, I actually had parents that encouraged me to do better, try harder, do my homework, show up for school, don't be late, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. I want to be clear on this. When we talk about education, I think there is room for improvement because we have to acknowledge, people like us, Delaney, we were lucky ones. We had good parents. We had stable household environments where we could go home and do homework in peace. We could have our parents help us with homework, and a lot of kids don't have that. These kids are raised in childhood homes where they don't have a dad. They have chaotic, maybe they're alcoholic, they're neglectful, all kind of drug abuse, economic problems.
Or their parents just don't tell them first thing you do when you get home, because this is what my parents did for me. First thing you do when you get home, don't get on the computer, don't get on the video games, don't get on the TV, do your homework. As soon as your homework is done, you can go and have fun. But the homework needs to get done first.
Yeah. And
set rules.
Yeah, I mean, if your parents are too hungover and they don't want to drive you to school, then you have no control over being late. So we're not ignoring the reality of those types of situations which are out there. So, I don't think this is the answer to that, but we can all acknowledge that there are issues and that some people, again, though it's not fair, let's not crush the entire system for the outliers that have those problems. That's all I'm suggesting.
Yeah, why are we punishing the kids that have good parents, do their homework, show up for school, don't have a poor attitude, to accommodate and make the kids that, yes, they're less fortunate, but that's not, you shouldn't put that blame of having crap parents on the kids that have good parents. That's not a solution to the problem.
All right, let's go back to Stereo Paul.
I think I see why you didn't read my first comment. and that's fine. I think this point is important enough to restate. This drop of standards is like an inversion of the Soviet Union, where you inverse all the colors. The Soviet Union was all about pencil whipping. They faked exceptionalism. They made all these laws, quotas, and they centrally planned, and they just said it happened, but it didn't. No, American Marxism is far different. They waive the standards. They just throw them away. And then they bury the proof that there are no standards. It's just a bizarre and perfect inversion of the Soviet Union because, they're both Marxists. The neoliberal world order. Don't let them say they aren't.
Interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah, I don't know about your first comment. I'm not sure which one you're referring to. I didn't see anything else come through stereo. I may have missed technical difficulties, maybe. I'll blame technology. When in doubt, blame technology.
Always
or Delaney. I'm just going to blame Delaney.
Yeah, you can blame me too. That's fine. Blame everything else on me.
She had nothing
it's cool.
to do with it. I'll just blame her anyway.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm used to it.
Back in my day, they would hold back the retards. I don't think they have that practice anymore.
Yeah.
But I can see if they did, we'd have probably 15-year-old first graders at this point.
Probably.
This is absurd. No wonder we're going to fail as a country. We need to purge the white privilege, though. That's the main thing. Get rid of all the white guilt that we can. White privilege. And then the Asians will have to prop us up because they're white adjacent. So we can't have the white people succeeding as much as... And they need to succeed as much as the black people and the brown people. Because brown people are really important too.
Well, you see now what I was asking when we're talking about manufacturing in America. The question now becomes a little bit more relevant, right? Are we even going to be able to do this stuff in America in like 30, 50 years? If we're producing kids who don't know how to do anything except, tap an iPad because that's what their parents gave them to distract them from their boring lives. That's a question that we all need to ask ourselves.
Oh, Paul in a YouTube chat says that his comment that he made was pre-stream, so it was probably a little incoherent.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Okay, we got two more stereo, and then we'll jump to our next story here.
So does that mean the Oregon whoever signed this up has an IQ below 80 and therefore clinically retarded and therefore should not be allowed in public without wearing a helmet and have a supervisor or caretaker with them at all times? Asking for a friend.
Probably. Yeah, but IQ is racist. Can't even talk about it.
Yeah, IQ is racist and sexist and xenophobic and all the isms and ists. Like IQ, we just don't even use that anymore, Kizza. So just get rid of your bigotry ways and accept the new world order.
Honestly, though, I do think IQ is not the best measure of intelligence. We could use something like G, the G score, but that's a lot less known. It's more of a composite score, and all indications are showing that is rapidly decreasing. Because it's got one more.
This reminds me of an old George Carlin quote. They want you smart enough to operate the machines, but dumb enough not to question anything the government does.
Yep.
Oh boy, how we miss him.
Oh, I miss George Carlin too. That man was a genius and ahead of his time.
Indeed, yeah. And it makes you wonder, if we've got the rise of AI with the simultaneous dumbing down of the actual human intelligence. I just rewatched the Dune movie, which of course was, I don't want to hear it. I know the movie was terrible. I didn't read the book.
Yeah.
Put me on a cross and burn me. Fine. Okay, that's fine. But the premise is still there. That the whole reason that Dune is the way that it is, where they outlaw AI, they outlaw technologies, because humanity got stupid. They stopped using their minds. They relied too much on technology. They relied too much on robots and machines to do everything for them, and that caused a huge war. So there's multiple instances of this theme reoccurring in sci-fi where, the AI comes up and it becomes a bad thing. People get stupid because they rely on the AI, and then bad things happen.
Yep.
So,
I mean, Terminator is a great example of this. I mean, in Terminator, the computers got too smart and realized that human beings were too dumb, and they started to eliminate them. So, just saying, like, Terminator's looking more and more possible as we get more and more artificial intelligence in our society.
Yeah, you think about the artificial intelligence, and a lot of the arguments are that, oh, we'll be able to fight back, we'll be able to control it, we'll be able to program it. Well, will we? Are we going to be smart enough to, you know, are we going to be intelligent enough to? Who knows?
Stalking Horse in the YouTube chat says, not retarded, emerging.
Yeah, get it right. They're emergent.
Yeah, they're emergent. They're emerging. They're failing, but they're emerging. Like a butterfly.
Speaking of emerging, we've got a quick story here that I wanted to share for you for the Science Bite today. We're going to be going a little over. Are you okay with that, Delaney? Because we still got to do our video reaction after this.
Oh, that's fine with me, Jeremy.
Okay. I wanted to share this because I know we were all kind of expecting global warming, right? But, well, I hate to break it to you guys, but there's been a change in plans, I guess, according to scientists. I don't know if it's the same scientists that talk about global warming, but from Futurism.com, scientists warn Gulf Stream may collapse, freezing North America.
Oh, no.
That's right. You know, we had 10 years until the whole thing goes up into a ball of flame, but it might actually go into a ball of ice instead.
Okay.
Climate change could plunge the Northern Hemisphere into a prolonged period of extreme cold. Scientists are warning that a key system... I love that. They just say scientists, you know? Oh, scientists.
Not like any... Yeah, just scientists are saying this.
I trust everything that comes after that word, scientists. Scientists are warning that a key system that drives oceanic currents, including the Gulf Stream, is being driven to the brink of collapse in large part due to human-caused climate change. Of course, they had a way to, you know, bring it back. Swing it right back around, of course. And the Washington Post reports of, you know, one of the most reliable outlets in America. And
of course,
it could cause a wave of freezing temperatures in Europe and North America.
Oh no!
So pack your burkas, I guess. You know.
Yeah, start investing in parka sales.
Yep. The Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, otherwise known as the AMOC, I'm sure I butchered that, is a vital part of the way the world's oceans function, transporting warm and much denser salt water from the tropics to northern Europe, where it cools down and makes its long journey back along the ocean floor. But according to a new study from the Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research in Germany, and published in the Journal of Nature Climate Change today, the system is becoming increasingly more susceptible to disruptions. The research is warning a sign that the drastic effects of climate change may soon have some new and very serious consequences. So which is it? Are we going to burn up or are we going to freeze? Just make up your mind so I can plan ahead. Okay? I'll adapt. Yeah, Stalking Horse. Quick, build those coal-fired power plants.
Right?
So I thought that was funny because, I mean, they can't even, you know, the show is called The Weekly Narrative, so we track the narratives, right? They can't even keep the narrative in line. And,
well, yeah, they just say scientists are saying this and expect all of us to just toe the line and just reiterate what we've been told. But even then, it's just conflicting narratives. Like you said, I mean, AOC tells me that the world is going to end in 12 years due to global heating, and now scientists are saying that the world is going to freeze over because of freezing temperatures. So I don't know what to believe. So if you're smart, you should invest in parka sales and also coal factories.
Exactly. Yep. Or diversify, you know, get a little bit of green energy, get a little bit of coal.
Get the green. Yeah, get a little bit of coal, get a little bit of you know, clothing sales in there. You know, diversification will make sure you always get some money in the end.
All right, we got 2 stereos, and then we'll go to the final story of the night. We're going to do a video react to some Vox propaganda about whether or not you should have kids. It's going to be good.
Oh.
I also remember coming across a similar report that said that the Gulf Stream collapse will cause Europe to have a freeze as well. Maybe they were a little out of date with that supposed ice age we heard about back in the 70s.
Yeah, you know, we have been hearing about an ice age for many decades now. could be coming.
Best prepare.
Paul.
Reading stories like this and contemplating the inevitable and apparently very soon demise of the United States due to a giant global freeze really makes me want to Fed post. I don't want to Fed post, and I'm not going to Fed post. I just have ideas for how to survive when all of these United States are crammed from 50 states to do about, like the bottom, south of the Mason-Dixon line. It's a lot of mouths to feed with a lot less space. We know how we got here. We know who to blame. That's all I'm saying.
Well, this is where you got to rely on your Nordic companions and friends to lead you into the tundra where you can thrive and survive there. Let's go learn the ways of the Inuit and hunt seals and eat blubber every day.
Hell yeah. Let's do it.
Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. Osis, and then we're going to get to our video reaction.
Well, think about this. What if they're both right? And then we have cooling and heating at the same time, and the temperature stays the same. It would be a miracle. It'd almost be like it is right now. I can only barely fathom a future where we have the normal temperature. We don't have to listen to all these idiots.
Right.
It would be a glorious future.
Oh.
But just in case, I have my refrigerator jacket, and that thing works up to like -20. No
There you go.
problem. The only thing I get frozen is my hands. When I have to touch some metal machinery, take a nut off or something without gloves. I pity you in Sacramento. You're not used to being cold.
Yeah, I'm very much used to it being very hot. I call myself a lizard, so I'm fine with just like laying out in the sun and baking and getting nice and toasty. So whenever I do go up to like Lake Tahoe or during the snow time, I'm like, I can't survive. I can't do this.
Well, I've had the luxury of living in all the extremes. I think the most extreme places you could possibly live in America for extended periods of time. I've lived in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, which is, I think, at least a particular town that I was in is colder than Alaska on average because of the lake effect from Lake Superior.
Yep.
And also Phoenix, Arizona. So I've been the hottest desert and the coldest place in America. I've been in both, and I can survive and thrive in each, and I think that's valuable experience to have.
Yeah, you've got that Nordic blood in you too. So even if it's freezing cold, you're just like wearing shorts outside, and you're like, this is nice, this is fun.
Yeah, I'm not one of those dirty shorts wearing people in the winter, but once in a while I will do it. I think that's a little low class for my taste.
Little low class, I love that.
Okay, let's try to get through. If my internet holds up, I'm getting many alerts here on OBS that there's problems with the stream, but we'll give it a shot. If not, no big deal. We've already went the distance for a 2-hour show, but we're gonna try to do a video reaction from Vox.com. Vox, for those of you who don't know, is a left-wing outlet, and for some reason they have a whole array of videos that are being recommended to me every single day on YouTube's homepage. Like, hey, watch these Vox videos. And I glanced at them one day. I saw one of them, and it was question, do I want kids? I was like, oh, what's this? Is this some, interesting? Let's see what these people are saying about having kids. And I watched it, and it was actually quite good. So I figured we'd watch the video here together and just kind of react live to what is being said today in modern, young people world about having kids. Because, we are in a kind of a birth rate crisis right now. People don't want to have families. They don't want to get married. They don't want to have kids. And let's see. Let's jump right into it. From Vox.
I was going to say, let me put my headphones on so I can hear the video.
All right. Do I want kids? We'll see how this goes.
You decide whether or not you wanted to have kids?
It just started like a natural flower blooming in my mind that, okay, maybe children.
I grew up thinking I would become a mom because I didn't know that I could choose not to be.
I am so glad I don't have children.
I knew I was always going to have kids. I decided to start thinking seriously about getting pregnant myself.
I've literally had people upset at the fact that I don't want to have children, but I'm like, how does that affect your life?
Especially like factoring in everything that's happening in the background, including climate change. Is this the kind of world that I want to bring my child into?
This is what we wanted. This was our goal, and we're here.
Whatever change you think your life is going to have in a significant way, multiply by like 99. Life blown up, completely gone.
Okay, Delaney. So we got a quick array of reactions to what do you think about having kids? The first one was her mom, the host's mom, and she said, I don't know if you heard it or not, but she basically said it was a flower in my mind where I just it just came in naturally. How about having kids? And then all the reactions, the reasons after that were all like, some of them were like the climate change one. That one, that's someone who was like really been exposed to a lot of the propaganda, because that's exactly what they want you to do. They want you to look around and be like, oh, climate change. I can't have kids because of the climate. And so what do you think? Most of these are going to be kind of negative. Do you think this whole thing's going to go negative, or what's your initial impressions so far?
I think it's going to be probably like 50-50, because there are people that they have that reason of, I don't want to have kids for the environment. And then there are a lot of people who's like me, where despite the environmental issues and whatever, I still do want to have kids because I see children as the future. And how are we going to continue to have a future of people like all of us if nobody's having children? So I think it's probably going to be 50-50. Like there's going to be the 50 that are like negative, like no environmentalism, blah, 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 and then 50 that are going to be like, no, yeah, despite that, we should still do it.
Mm-hmm. Well, once we get through, at some point through this, I'll actually finally reveal my actual personal opinion on having kids, which nobody has heard.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when I talk to you, I've talked to you about having kids a lot. I've talked to a lot of my friends a lot about having kids, but it's always in the context of me sharing observations about reality, statistics, biology. I don't ever really share my personal opinion on this kind of stuff because I don't assume that people care about my opinion, first of all. But secondly, it's only relevant really to me and when I want to have kids or not have kids. So I will reveal my personal opinion on that here. Now, finally, for the first time, Dari says, good Lord, this guy wants to get pregnant. Well, you'll find that that's not actually a dude. And Stalking Horse kind of gives away the world is better off without any of them having children. Well, that is a question. Do we want people like this? Do we want everyone to reproduce? That's also a question. So
yeah, that's one thing that kind of floats in my brain, because a lot of people that I know that are in my age range, they are the ones that are like, oh, I don't want to have kids. I just think in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, good. If you don't want to have them, then don't have them, because we already have enough screwed up people in the world that had parents with your mentality and still had you anyways. And look how screwed up you are. I don't want that to be passed on to another generation of children. Like, no way.
Yep. This is from a series called Glad You Asked from Vox on YouTube.com. Let's get going.
Okay.
It's really hard to separate out my desire to have kids versus the expectation to have kids. And if you don't believe that there's still an expectation of having children, just turn on the television.
So, when are the kids coming? You gotta have a baby.
You gotta have one now.
People like pregnant.
Do you want to be a mother or not?
regret it, not having children.
There is the stigma. If you don't have kids, then you're clearly not as happy. A lot of us have real questions.
I got to point out, most of those examples were very old, before all this kind of mutant ideology came into play. So not a very robust argument for saying that there's a modern argument that there's a stigma against not having kids. I don't buy that at all. I think it's very clear that most of society now wants you to not have kids. That messaging is everywhere. The yes queen, you be 40 and single, adventure, don't have kids. I don't have kids and I'm proud. All that kind of stuff. That is much more predominant in culture today.
Yeah, it is. It's Yeah, it's seeping into our culture more and more. It's like, or what's even worse is we're encouraging young women to be single mothers.
Oh, yeah. No, that's also a big part of it, too. Hey, welcome, Bill, to the channel.
Hey, Bill.
When and how and whether to become parents. So I'm going to get some data. And why not start with that big assumption that kids make you happier?
Is that an assumption? Do you assume that kids would make you happier?
I don't think they'll make me happy. I think they'll all add to my happiness even greater than my happiness already is.
I think that's kind of a straw man that they're using here, but let's see.
Since about the 1960s, we've had pretty clear evidence that being a parent doesn't make you happier than not having children. Out of the 20 countries that we studied, the United States had the largest gap where parents report that they're significantly less happy than non-parents.
How do you ask survey questions that get at this?
Good
We're
question.
not asking people, are you happy you had kids? We're asking people, are you happy? And just asking them to rate their own level of happiness.
So to find out if they're happier with kids, they don't ask them if they're happy that they had kids. And they're studying one study here, which I think not sufficient enough in my opinion. If they could find some more, I'd believe it. But interesting framing on the entire thing is that like the purpose of having kids is to be happier. Doesn't that seem kind of strange? That's how they frame it.
Yeah.
Everything
it's very strange.
Everything in modern life is about what makes me happy. It's not about what makes me fulfilled. It's not about what makes me satisfied. It's not about what makes me, like what gives me a sense of achievement. It's about happy, like chasing this fleeting, like we're all drug addicts, like looking for that next fix of happy, which is, generally a temporary state anyway. Whereas satisfaction, achievement, accomplishment, that's more of a permanent kind of state, where you do something in life and you can always look back and be proud of. Why don't they approach it from that angle?
Because the culture has raised us to believe that parenthood isn't a what's the word I want to use? Isn't something to be satisfied with. It doesn't bring long-term fulfillment, as you would say. That's what our culture has been raising us to believe, that parenthood is like a hindrance on your happiness instead of a potential portal for bringing true fulfillment in this world, because you're leaving behind half of you and the person that you created this life with to bring about a potentially better world with your offspring.
Yeah, and Kizza points out in the YouTube chat that women's happiness has gone down while the birth rate has also gone down. Coincidence or correlation? Yeah, it's a good point, man. It's a good point. And birth control, of course, obviously was one of the most prolific, crazy, impactful inventions of modern times. I was going to say modernity, but I switched at the last second. And that takes a big impact as well out of that birth rate and the happiness. Because guess what happens to women when they don't have to have kids? Well, we can shove them into the workforce, put them in a cubicle, make them make stuff, make them make money, make them generate tax revenue.
Yep. And it kind of goes against our biology. I mean, not saying like women can't work, but it's not in our natural DNA to want to like get out and do hard labor. It's in our natural instincts to want to nurture and take care of and be fulfilled with that status in our biology. Like we see little baby girls like with their baby dolls, and they feed them and they change their diapers and stuff like that, and they're happy doing that.
Oh, of course. Yeah, and all these spinsters, the 40-year-old yes queens that are single, what do they always have 100% of the time?
A dog.
Pets. Pets left and right. Dogs, cats, you name it. Because why? Because they have to fulfill their natural instinct to be a caregiver, a nurturer to something. And
they can't give birth to a baby anymore, so they gotta, next best thing is a dog.
They call themselves dog moms. They take their dogs around in strollers. They literally emulate everything about having a baby aside from actually having a baby. It's actually quite sad. All right, let's keep going here.
It's very sad.
It's not just the United States. We see the happiness gap in all of these countries too.
It It's really a parental happiness deficit, and it doesn't occur everywhere. There are a few nation states where parenthood actually improves your average rated happiness, and some of those countries have extremely low fertility rates. That's telling you that people who do decide to have children are unusually attached to kids and want kids very badly.
I want to point out how statistics can be used to kind of lie to you. So notice she said that fertility in countries, some of the countries that have the highest happiness for parents have the lowest fertility rates. Well, now, what does that mean necessarily?
Yeah.
Is there are the families having less kids? Or is there a lot less like single parenthood happening? A lot less, abortions, stuff like that. How many abortions do you think are happening in Hungary or Norway or Sweden or Finland, which are the highest countries for happiness on this list, whereas you've got incentives to have kids and be on welfare systems in countries like the United States, where the happiness is negative 12%, right? These are so they're trying to say that the countries where they have kids, that the fertility rates are so low. Okay, well, yeah, not necessarily. They're trying to make you think that the people don't actually want to have kids. That's not actually the case.
Yeah, just because they can't have kids or their fertility is low, that doesn't mean that they don't want to or they don't have that desire to. That's bull crap.
Anthony Koza in chat says, alcoholic dog owners, what a life. Yeah, no, that's really it, man. Just chug your box wine and pet your dog until you're 80 years old, and whatever happens after that, good luck. Okay, so we got some statistics on happiness, which I think is kind of a weak opening argument on their behalf, but I see where they're going with it. They're trying to figure out, Let's jump a little bit forward here. Maybe, if it'll let me. Come on, YouTube. It says it's buffered. So why isn't it playing?
No. Susan's going after you again, Jeremy.
Giza says, I would add those nations which are the happiest also have the very high usage of antidepressants. Yeah, exactly. I think there's a high correlation there too. Hungary encourages having children with tax breaks. Yes, they incentivize having kids to a large degree in Hungary.
I think Hungary also is pretty strict on abortions as well. So it's kind of, also they don't really encourage their young women to just be getting on birth control and being little hoes and just sleeping with random people. They're actually pretty pro-family, get married.
It's a much more religious culture.
That kind of stuff. Pretty religious. I mean, I don't know. I've never been to Hungary. I don't know any Hungarians, but from what I've read about the country, they are pretty religiously based.
And people are kind of upset that I made fun of puppies in chat, I think, or most of us. Get over it.
I know.
I didn't say puppies are bad. I said having puppies alone in your house when you're 45 years old and with bulk box wine, that's bad. That's not good.
Yeah, so, supplementing your desire to nurture something instead of a human, that's bad.
Okay, so YouTube does not
want to comply
here.
As my dog sleeps behind me on my bed.
Yeah, speak for yourself, Delaney.
Hey,
Okay.
I'm not old and decrepit and an alcoholic that's drinking a box of wine a night and only wants to have a dog for the rest of my life. I want to have kids.
So YouTube is not cooperating, so I think I'll go ahead and I'll give you the big picture here on this. We'll do a video reaction of this after I upgrade our internet or get a new modem or router, whatever the hell has to happen, because this is getting on my nerves. But basically, I'll boil it down to this. At the end of the day, it's a personal choice, and I don't care who does what. I really don't care. And largely, I think it's a self-sorting system. So the people that don't want to have kids, because that one chick with the giant glasses and all the makeup on at the beginning, you could tell that she has some other ideas that aren't necessarily in line with a kind of a natural lifestyle. She's probably a vegan or something. She thinks, obviously she's deathly afraid of climate change. And you brought up a great point. Do we want those ideas self-perpetuating through society?
No, absolutely
I would
not.
argue no. So in a way, this problem that we have is kind of self-correcting, where the religious people, the family-oriented people, they're going to naturally procreate more than the mutants who are literally stopping their genetic bloodline because of the ideology, not because of what's happening in the real world, not because of something that they interact with, but because of something that somebody told them. So they think, oh, climate change is going to happen, something bad's going to happen in the future somewhere, so I'm not going to have kids. Okay, yeah, that's perfectly fine. I think the system is self-sorting. But I would make the argument, and this is my personal opinion, that having kids is a net benefit to your life. Not only because it is your, literally, I mean, if you want to look at it from a biological perspective, it's the only reason you're here. Nature doesn't care about your goals, your dreams, your ideology, your philosophy. It made you so that you can make copies of yourself. Now, that's a whole separate argument in and of itself, beside the one that I think is most important, which is this. Having kids is a challenge. It is the biggest challenge that you could possibly go through in your life, because you have to stay up late, you have to feed the babies, they cry, they get sick, you have to make sure they don't die. They disrupt your life. They're a huge cost, a burden on everything. They are a huge detriment on your life for a long time. And I think that's exactly why you should have them. Because people, we have a culture now that prioritizes feeling happy and feeling good and feeling what I want to do. What do I want to do? Well, look at where that's got us. 50, 60% anxiety and depression rates. People will want to kill themselves left and right. Nobody is satisfied. Nobody is happy. Nobody's fulfilled. Nobody is living meaningful lives because they don't do what? They don't get presented with challenges. Having a kid is kind of like, I look at it as a ladder. I can go to college, pay for myself, get a degree. That's a challenge. Got that done, check. Get, a really good job, make a bunch of money. Okay, challenge, check, done. I have to keep climbing that ladder. And at the top, even beyond starting a company like Amazon or something like that, I would argue that having and raising a kid to a good degree is even more challenging than that. And that's why that if you want to achieve the pinnacle level of fulfillment satisfaction, you have to keep progressing in the level of challenges that you face in life. And at the top of that challenged ladder is having kids. So if you want to live, if you're not concerned with overcoming challenges, getting any kind of fulfillment, getting any sense of accomplishment, any sense of satisfaction, if you just want to exist and, like these people say, just be happy, I just want to do what I want, stuff like that, fine, cool, more power to you, man, because you'll get exactly what you want. You'll get to do what you want every day for the rest of your life. But it's not going to produce any kind of, actually profound feelings of satisfaction, of fulfillment, of accomplishment, of achievement. And the best way, the only way I think to achieve that peak level is to have kids. And it's a decision for you. Do you want to live a satisfying, fulfilling, accomplished life? If the answer is yes, well, that is the pinnacle of what you can achieve, how to get there. If the answer is no, then I also agree with you. Don't do it. But it's a choice. But that's how I frame it. And because everyone always says, when you ask them, they say, oh, I don't want to have kids because it's going to mess everything up. It's too much. It's burden. It's money and it's time, and I can't do what I want to do. Okay, yeah, let's frame it in that exact terms. That's exactly why you should have them, because of the level of challenge that it introduces in your life, which is exactly why, and I was confused for the longest time about this, when I would always hear people say, I didn't want to have kids, but they just happened, and I'm so happy they did. I was like, wait, aren't you miserable because you have to, you're poor, and all your time and your money and energy? That's why, because they can't explain. That's the part they can never explain, is that being presented with a challenge that they didn't want and having to overcome that is what makes them happy. Every single parent you talk to, they're always happy. They always say, oh yes, I'm glad I had kids. It's because of that. And that's the part they can't explain. And that's the part that I kind of tried to reverse engineer and came to the conclusion that it's the challenge of it which makes it fulfilling. So the argument that you would, I don't want to do it because it's too challenging, that's the entire point, is that it's challenging, which is why you should do it, because that's what gives us fulfillment and satisfaction out of life, is confronting and overcoming challenges.
Yeah.
There you go.
My mom always told me when I was growing up that having kids is one of the hardest job she's ever had to do.
Yeah, that's what they all say.
But it's the hardest job any person will ever have to go through. But like you said, it challenged her to want to be better, to want to work harder, be the best version of herself, and to overcome that obstacle that she had because when she was younger, she didn't want to have kids. She was like, no way, no how. And she soon changed her mind with the birth of her youngest sibling, because she was a lot older than her youngest sibling, and she helped raise him. And that made her she saw the satisfaction that came from raising a child and seeing them grow up and seeing them look up to you and seeing the example that you set for them. And that made her want to jump into parenthood and become a mother and raise children and get that satisfaction of procreating and seeing the world beyond your short-sighted wants and desires. Because you have to put your short-sighted wants and desires to the side and put your children first and actually have that satisfaction of being a mother, being a father, being a parent. And I'm so blessed that I have a mother that just jumped into it head first and tried to raise me and my older sibling as best as she possibly could, and my dad as well. My dad was the same way. My dad, he's like, I wanted kids, so he was like, I'm down for it. Like, it's cool. I want babies. So I'm just blessed that I had two parents that wanted it, desired it, saw the satisfaction in it, didn't let the societal pressure to not have children or not to have children too early stop them from being the best versions of themselves for the sake of their children and for the sake of the future of the world and for humanity.
Yeah, and I think, notice my opinion is not framed in a way that's of a traditional why you should have kids, like it's your duty, or God says you should, or you need to procreate because that's what biology says. It's not any of that. It's framed in a way that's
challenge yourself.
It's framed in a way that's meant to put the onus on you, because you have to tell yourself, you have to acknowledge, if you say you don't want to have kids, you have to say, it's basically admitting that you don't want to be challenged. That's why I love my framing of my opinion, because go ahead, say that you don't want to have kids, and I will agree with you. I will say, dude, perfect, awesome, I love it. But at the same time, you have to admit that you don't want that challenge, and it's designed to sting a little bit, and that's why I think that's my opinion as of right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a pretty good way to maybe not get people to rethink their life or really rethink their choice, but maybe put that thought in their brain of, maybe I am not challenging myself enough. Maybe that's a good way to think of it, instead of thinking like, oh, environment, oh, I just want to be free, or whatever, kind of lame excuses people come up with.
Yeah, and Bill in chat says it's a rite of passage. He just had his second one, I believe. Congratulations on Bill by the way. He says he wants to have more, but that, I mean, you got other people in chat chiming in too. Anthony says my toddler is a huge challenge.
It's the hardest job anybody will ever do, males and females.
Yep. I just find it funny that we lived in a society that's been twisted so much that the entire point of having a kid, like the challenge of it, has been twisted into the reason not to have them. Like, I'm not going to have a kid because it's going to disrupt my life. It's too much of a challenge monetarily, too much time. That's exactly why you should have it. And my opinion is actually backed up by science as well, because we're looking at, they try to study why people are so dissatisfied, why they're unhappy. And a lot of it boils down to they are not being challenged anymore. I mean, look at what's happening in schools. You're not challenged in school. You could literally not even show up, and you still pass. You're not challenged at your job because there's affirmative action. You can't get fired for any reason, unless you're conservative or a Trump supporter. But other than that, you could just suck at anything. You could suck at everything in life and still survive. That is a perfect recipe for creating incredibly unhappy, dissatisfied, unfulfilled people. We need to be challenged.
Absolutely. Hear, hear, Jeremy.
And with that, I think we're going to wrap it up, because we are 2.5 hours in. Guys, if you enjoyed the stream, if you enjoy the content, we can find us every Tuesday right here on youtube.com/weekly narrative. and on stereo. Give it a like, subscribe, all the good stuff. You can find our podcast on iTunes and Stitcher and Google under the name The Alt Centrist. If you prefer to listen to the audio version, it is available. I got to investigate my internet problems because this is getting ridiculous. I got a multi-million-dollar studio. I should be able to play a YouTube video. So I'll figure that out. And hopefully we can do a video reaction on this one next week.
Yep. Let's do it, Jeremy. I want to thank everybody for joining us. And yeah, if you really want to stick it to the man, have babies.
That's another aspect to it too that we never even talked about. That's exactly what everybody wants you to not do, is have kids. So if you want to stick it to the system and all these people and the mutants, have kids. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next Tuesday.
Bye, everybody. Have a good night.